Good evening and welcome to the final round of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy, round 7 from the stunning Silverstone circuit in the UK. Tonight we finished the last chapter in what has been a thrilling season, but we won't close the book until the final stories have been written. This season has seen more winners than ever before. 4 have taken to the top step of the podium. A total of 8 have sprayed the virtual champagne, but tonight 2 drivers will battle it out for championship glory. Rocket Simsport Racing's Luca Burke comes into this finale as reigning champion, and the driver of the number 87 certainly knows what it takes to be untouchable in the series. The dominant victory at Misano was typical of Luca's ability, but he hasn't exactly had it his own way this season. The disconnection at the opening round in Barcelona before a strategy call saw him lose out on the win at Spa in the closest ever finish this championship has seen. And BD Racing's Kev Critchley proved in Kailami that even the best can be beaten. A messy race at Imola saw him win, but at what cost? A lap 1 collision at the Villeneuve chicane sees Burke carry a 15-second penalty into the final round tonight. Could that mistake decide the championship? The one driver who has to embody a do-or-die attitude tonight is one who has succeeded in doing the exact opposite for the entire season. Sancho Simsport's Ross McGregor has quietly gone about defining what it means to be consistent, not finishing outside the top 7 all season and finishing 2/3 of the races in the top 5. The driver of the number 33 made himself known as a championship contender when he held on to that win at Spa. Burke baffled, McGregor a magician. However, difficult races at the following round at Kailami, where he picked up his worst result of the season, going unnoticed en route to 6th place at Paul Ricard. McGregor must tonight beat Burke convincingly if he is to be crowned champion. To make matters more difficult, there are a number of other drivers also out there to prove their worth before the season is over. Got it? Good. Well, the stage tonight is the home of Grand Prix racing and one of the most iconic venues in the history of motorsport. The 5.891 kilometre Silverstone circuit has long been associated with rivalries and racing past and present, with iconic corners such as Copse, Maggots, Beckett, Stowe and Abbey offering up supporting roles in tonight's performance. I don't think you could have a better place to decide a title. I'm Tim Fullbrook, part of the troublesome twosome that has led you through the championship up till now, and my better half and Cayman comrade David Wressell is once again here. And DW, there's no other way of putting it, tonight's race is the feature race finale we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Good evening to everyone watching as well. It's a fantastic end to the season, isn't it? Like I say, these feature races have really thrown up some fantastic racing so far, and it's quite apt that we've come back to, or we've arrived rather, at an absolutely iconic circuit to finish off as well. And like you say, it's going to be fantastic to see how the top 2 are going to face off in the race this evening.
Well, let's have a look then how they are set coming into this final round. Luca Burke leads the way on 121 points, a lead which he extended at the checkered flag at Imola. However, what appears an 18-point buffer over Ross McGregor is reduced to 11 once the completion bonus for attending and completing every race is applied to McGregor's tally. Burke failing to finish at the very first round of the season could come back to bite. Sancho's Jack McIntyre is locked in battle with Kev Critchley for 3rd, and the former looks to have the position wrapped up in his debut season, with the BD Racing driver not taking to the grid tonight. Tom Ryer for MSL Motorsport proves just how strong he's been in the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup, with 5th place before tonight's race, an average point score only bettered by the 2 championship contenders, a story of what might have been. And a total of 29 drivers have scored points this season, with Max Spooner the last, scoring E-Team Brit's first point at Imola. And David, that just says it all, doesn't it? Plenty of positions still up for grabs and 90 minutes of racing to decide it.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And like you say, it may only be 2 people that are fighting for the championship victory. However, if we've seen anything in the last 6 races up until this point, it proves that it doesn't matter what the position is on the track. Everyone wants to fight for that ultimate glory at the end of it. And like you say, Max Spooner last week at Imola was a primary example of that, and fantastic to see him and the E-Team Brit car getting their first points of the season. But it's a very long race, this one. It's going to be very heavy on tyres, I'm sure, with a lot of very fast sweeping corners. You mentioned the Maggots Beckett's Chapel section. That is going to be extremely hard on the tyres. So it's going to be very key to see how the strategy plays out, especially, like we said, for Luca Burke, because he's got that 15-second time penalty after the incident at the start of the race at Imola last week.
So then let's take you for a lap around the Silverstone circuit, the home of the British Grand Prix. We ride on board with Jack Noller, driver of the number 36 MSL Motorsport Cayman, on the run up towards Cop, braking and turning in fourth gear, trying to chuck the car in and carry as much speed as possible. On the exit there though, David, it's a crucial part of the track where pick up one too many infringements with track limits, you will be given a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. There's quite a few of them as well, and you can see as they go through Maggotts and Beckett's, is slowly winding the car down and getting the best exit possible onto the hang straight. Again, you've got another option there where you can get that extra little bit of extension, but you really want to get the best exit possible because this is definitely going to be an overtaking spot come the race tonight with the slipstream going down that main straight.
Heading up towards Stowe then, reaching almost terminal velocity, fastest point of the track, braking down to third gear, throwing the car in and riding the slide all the way out to the apex. Then you descend down the hill, through the Vale and into Club, the left-right that brings you onto the Hamilton Straight. That is an overtaking opportunity there through this chicane. We're likely to see drivers running side by side on the opening lap. Then open up the steering, run over the curve on the exit again. Be careful to keep all four wheels inside the white line as you run down the Hamilton Straight and into Abbey. Another very fast right-hander. Just throw the car in and hope the thing sticks. Then through the long left at Farm and into the new sequence of corners. I say new, it was built in 2011, so first raced on in 2010 actually, so 11 years old, and we go through the loop, the slowest corner of the track. And David, this track really has it's all the technical challenges you could possibly want in a racing circuit.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. It's a mixture of all the types of corners you'd want to see. You've got the tight corners of Village in the loop there. You've got Maggotts Beckett's, you've got Stowe. It's a fantastic combination, and Brooklands here is another one of those options where you've got the potential to overtake going into that ever-tightening left-hander and then into Luffield to finish off before you go into Woodcut to finish off the lap. It really is one of those that just breeds overtaking, and we've seen plenty of that even at tracks where we've potentially considered there might not be too much. So if we're going to get a race like we have done in the last 6, this one's going to be an absolute barnstormer.
So Jack rounds out the lap then by the flat out kink through Woodcut and across the line. And David, like you say, all the races this season have been spectacular. We've had battling up and down the order, but tonight that could cause a problem for our championship contenders. It's very easy to get caught up in action and get caught up in drama.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And like you say, that although we've got only 2 fighting out for the Ultimate Championship victory, it does still mean that there's going to be people fighting along the track as well. So really what McGregor and Burke have got to try and do is just try and steer clear of those troublesome fights that they're going to get stuck in. Do they pit early? Do they then get effectively try and hot lap? But then do they get stuck behind people? Do they try and leave it as late as possible? Do the tyres go off? And then do they end up losing time as a result? Do they change tyres? Do they not? It's all these kind of things that makes this a complete unknown. And like you mentioned, there might well be a net 11-point gap between Ross McGregor and Luca Burke, but that is something that can disappear at any point.
Well, I'm almost quite grateful, David, that you and I are up here, and the only challenge we have is keeping on top of the mathematics to see who's leading the championship. We will, of course, be doing our best to keep you updated with who is in the hot seat and who is best placed to take home that championship crown. So before we get started though, drivers are about to head out to start qualifying, but a brief moment to thank those who have made this championship season possible. MSL Motorsport Consultancy, Porschesport, Race Department and Grid Finder, and all the races hosted on the Simracing.gp platform. And David, just casting our minds back across the 6 races that have led up to this point, it's been an absolute blast, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, you and I were lucky enough to commentate over season 1, and that was fantastic in itself, and it's just gone from strength to strength. I think the addition of the feature races was a real masterstroke. I think it's added a massive element to the championship, and obviously the quality of the grid has helped as well. We had a fantastic grid in season 1, but somehow we've managed to probably even top that even more with the quality of drivers that we've got out. So yeah, real pleasure to be here. It was such a shame it's got to end, but of course all good things do need to come to an end at some point, and I'm hoping and I'm confident that we're going to get a race to top it off quite nicely.
So we have had the green flag in qualifying. Our 20-minute session is underway. We'll cut across to live pictures shortly as the drivers head out on track. And David, we spoke about this circuit being one good for racing, good for passing, plenty of opportunities, but still you want to get that best spot on the grid in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And it doesn't matter how good a track be or how much it can effectively generate overtaking opportunities. If you're at the back of the grid, you have at this moment in time where you've got 17 people to get past to win the race. So you're going to have to do some overtaking, but you are going to make those benefits by getting a good qualifying lap in. And if you want to keep an eye on all the times, as Mr. Broadcast Director Steve Proudley said a fantastic job of highlighting, you can catch them all on Pitwall Live, which is the main picture on the left of your screen. If you head to pitwall.live and jump into the Simsport Solutions server, you can see all of the timings that are going through, and importantly as well, because we're into the feature race, you can see all the pit stop times as well, so you can get a good idea as to whether people are electing to change those pesky tyres or not, depending on how they get on.
And we've seen that really play a hand in the races, the feature races up until this point, haven't we, David? At the Spa, we saw that battle of no tyres versus taking tyres that came down to what was the closest finish in the championship history, separated by 2.5 tenths of a second at the checkered flag. And that's really the dilemma that drivers face with limited tyre sets as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Like I said, they've got 4 tyre sets this evening. So I saw a handful of the guys going out and practice. Didn't see too many because the 30-minute practice session they have before the qualifying starts does have that allocation already applied. So it is something they've got to be a bit careful of. But like you say, yeah, it's one of those. Do you go and use an extra set of tyres in qualifying to get the best lap out possible, or do you play it a little bit carefully and change your tyres midway through the race? You see Chris Crossman's going to be potentially, assuming he doesn't make any mistakes, with one of the eSport Designs cars behind him. I think that's Mr. Steve Hinden. He's going to be the first one to set a flying lap this evening.
So heading through the S's, the iconic opening sequence of corners at Silverstone through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel onto the long hanger straight. The eSport Designs car behind, yes, it is Steve Hinden in the 80 car. You'll be picking up a nice little slipstream there down one of the fastest sections of the track on the run up towards Stowe. And David, I know you love a stat, and I know you love a good little nugget of information to get your racing coverage started. But across the 6 qualifying sessions we've had so far this season, do you want to take a stab at the grand total of pole margin? So the difference between first and second combined across all 6 qualifying sessions.
It's got to be, I mean, I say it's got to be, that's going to come off really badly if it's not, but I would say sub 1 second, maybe 9 tenths of a second across the whole 6 races so far.
You're exceptionally close. I feel like giving you a point for your answer anyway, but 0.765 of a second combined. So across 6 qualifying sessions, less than a second on average has, it's just over a tenth of a second has decided pole position. So these qualifying sessions are close, and that's exactly what we love to see, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually really glad that your number, that your actual stat was lower than what I suggested. Otherwise, it would have kind of fallen on. It would have been falling like a lead balloon, really, wouldn't it? So I'm glad that that's the case.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's going to be 2.5 tenths. 2.5 tenths. Yeah, a second in total. Yeah, it doesn't
exactly.
quite work as well.
No, exactly. That's it. So hopefully we'll be nice and close. I've no doubt we will be, as Chris Crossman comes through Luffield to finish his flying lap. It looks like it's all good for the time being. So we'll see what the yardstick's going to be and see whether the man behind him, Steve Hinden, like you said, Tim, he got a bit of slipstream going down the hanger straight, and he would have got it down the back straight as well, and just off. But yeah, Chris Crossman setting a pace with a 2:09.6 just to kick things off.
Only to be beaten immediately by our hot lap driver Jack Noller, who puts the 36 MSL Motorsport car on pole position provisionally, of course, as EGT Motorsport's Tamor Lavoie sets his first time 1.3 seconds off the current benchmark. Now here is your reigning champion and the man with one hand on the trophy, and he jumps up to provisional pole at 2:08.973. Burke's first lap in the books with 15 minutes to go, 5 minutes into qualifying. Plenty of time for things to change, but at the moment Ross McGregor is the best part of 8 tenths slower than his championship rival Luca Burke. And David, if you're Burke, the best thing you can do, isn't it, is take that point for pole, or at least to be as far up the grid as possible, because that makes McGregor's job even harder than it already is.
Absolutely, Tim. I mean, Ross really has to win this race. There is no two ways about it. He has to do everything he can to win this race, and then he's just got to try. if he can affect Luca in any way, fantastic, that'll work in his favour. But I think the amount of difference in points he's going to have to get, I think you've probably got the abacus out for this one, but I would imagine he probably needs to finish about 7th or 8th in order for Ross to take the title back to Zancho headquarters once more. So it's going to be difficult, but like you say, he's been consistent and he's got himself into this position. So if he can keep going, and that banker lap's not too bad, I'm sure he will. I'm sure we'll get a chance to at least give it a good old effort. I'm sure we'll see that.
And on this next lap, Luca Burke is half a second up on his previous time. So if he can maintain that speed and that margin, he will extend his lead over Alex Buncombe in the current standings to about 0.6 of a second. But let's see, as he rounds through the arena section and through the left-hander at Aintree, using all of the curb on the inside and on the outside as well, he'll need to be careful not to invalidate his lap. And the run down the Wellington straight and in towards Brooklands, leaves it as late as he can on the brakes and into the very late apex at the long left-hander, and then through this right at Luffield that seems to go on forever, but it's fairly uneventful for Burke. He looks completely in control of the number 87 Rocket Simsport Cayman. As he comes, it cuts all the way across the inside of Woodcote, and on the run to the line he does improve. So a 2:08.4 benchmark set early by Burke, and it's down to McGregor to respond, and he has done, but still 0.6 down, half a second up through this next lap, but has lost it immediately. And David, we're starting to see already the gloves are off.
Oh, I tell you what, that was a proper knockout blow to an extent, wasn't it? He certainly landed the first punch as Luca Burke. What a lap that was. Already 0.6 quicker of Crossman, his closest competitor. But like you said, Ross is going quicker, so he has improved. He's actually, he was 0.7 off, and Luca's just gone, about half a second quicker. So he's actually gained a little bit of time on him in terms of the global picture. So he's actually going quicker, and obviously we've still got 12 minutes left of qualifying. It's an optimum track. It's a little bit cooler than we've had in recent races. It's got that cloud cover as well, so that will help these guys put in some quicker times. As you see Regan Mitchell going into club and onto the Hamilton straight, he's got 0.4 in hand at the moment. So yeah, unfortunately at the moment, Tim, it does look like we're going to be doubling that whole accumulative pole margin, but I don't think it will stay like that for very long.
No, well, the largest pole margin did actually, the record was set this season in the opening round. It was 2.5 of a second, the gap between McIntyre and Critchley at Catalonia, and 0.6 rather blows that out of the water. But fingers crossed, some of the drivers can find improvements in the remaining 11.5 minutes. Currently leading the way then, it is Burke from Buncombe, a gap of 0.6. Then it's Crossman McGregor in 4th, provisionally. Nolla, Mitchell, Bauer, handover. David Belanger up into 9th place for the EGT Motorsport team, and it's Bastian Zenefels rounding out the top 10 in the number 64. But Jack Nolla, set to improve, crosses the line. Looks like, unfortunately, he must have invalidated his lap. He did find 0.2 on that previous lap of the Silverstone circuit, and that would have seen him jump up to 4th. But unfortunately, Nolla invalidating his time. Meanwhile, Regan Mitchell comes across the line. He goes 5th, so he displaces Jack Nolla immediately then to take the better position on the 3rd row. A number of drivers improving, and David Belanger up in 9th. David, this is a strong performance, and we saw at the end of season 1 David started coming strong towards the second half.
Yeah, he's certainly a grower into these championships, isn't he? Like you say, he started off a little bit slowly in season 1. He wasn't as slow off the mark in the first race at Catalonia, but he has done the same again this year. He's slowly continued to improve. He's got used to the car, maybe got used to the racecraft around as well, because obviously it's different people every time, and potentially people he's not maybe familiar driving alongside. So you've also got to take that into account as well, especially when you're in towards that midfield area of the grid. But yeah, he's doing a fantastic job at the moment. He's got a couple of tenths back from Dan Handover in the number 43 Zancho machine, but he's in pit lane at the moment. So with just half of qualifying left, I'm going to be really interested to see where the number treble 2 car ends up on the grid this evening.
And also the next question is, do these drivers risk taking another set of tyres and pushing on to improve their grid position? Potentially could come back to bite them when the strategy calls are made in the 90-minute feature race. John Clements here crosses the line. He goes up to 9th place. That's a strong performance from the driver of the number 88 podium sim racing machine. Best qualifying of 6th, coming at Kyalami so far in his eSport Designs Cayman Supercup career. So a strong performance from Clements tonight at Silverstone. Here's Bradley Brocky's on screen from E-Team Brit in the 105 car. He's going through club, looking in control, looking fairly uneventful, like we say. And David, these Cayman GT4s, sometimes just looking smooth and looking uneventful, like I say, is sometimes the quickest way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Slow is fast, as they say. And yeah, it's good to see. No one's really, even, I mean, we go back to the hot lap videos we've seen for every round so far. Jack Noller's normally, as we've always seen, he's always on the ragged edge and almost seesawing to an extent through some of the corners, but he didn't really seem too out of shape in the hot lap we saw a few moments ago. So it seems to me maybe they've just got a bit more of it. Obviously, Darrell Upton, just as we talk about that, he's got a bit wider and ends up in the lap, but everyone seems a bit more comfortable around the Silverstone circuit than we're used to. But it's quite nice to see, and yeah, most of the people who are keeping it clean seem to be getting some good lap times on the board.
So 8.5 minutes to go. John Clements on screen at the moment. He was 4 tenths up, which would have seen him leapfrog up to the 3rd row of the grid, but unfortunately lost all of that time around the middle sector, some point between Stowe and the corner he's at now, which is Aintree. All of that time has dissipated for the driver of the number 88 podium sim racing car. Here's Chris Crossman in the number 3 BD racing machine, heading down the hanger straight towards Stowe, currently in 3rd place. He's got 6 tenths to find if he wants to knock Burke from top spot, and that is a mountain to climb. Put it past the number 3 driver. And I suppose tonight, David, this is a really good opportunity to see how Chris stacks up, because without Critchley around, and we did see some slight friendly teamwork going on to help Critchley's chances at Paul Ricard, etc. It's going to be interesting to see how Crossman can fight his own battles.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Like I say, it's a shame that Kev's not able to take part this evening. It would have been good to see him in the race and obviously do himself, basically get the best championship position possible. Of course, that unfortunate collision between himself, that concertina effect between Noller, Burke, McIntyre and himself, obviously getting him out of the race and out of the championship contention at Imola last week. And that, of course, is that incident that gave Luca Burke his 15-second penalty coming into tonight. But yeah, Chris driven a really good championship. He's had very good pace. I think he knew that as well. I think we've shown that since race 1. But like you say, he's maybe just played rear gunner at points to Kev with his title challenge. And yeah, I'm really interested. And like I say, he's doing a fantastic job at the moment. He's really proving his point, because at the moment, with the time he's got as it stands, he's sitting 3rd on the grid. So he's going to have a nice little run up into the first corner, because he'll have that inside line, of course.
So round to the final corner at Luffield then, and then through Woodcote, the kink to the right-hand side. He's not up on his time though, so he's not going to be improving. And no, indeed, he actually was 4 tenths slower than his best time, so Crossman will have to go again. Here we go. This is a look at the timing screen that David and myself are using to describe the action to you tonight. There's the track map in the top right-hand corner. You can see who looks best placed with some nice clean air at the bottom of that track map. The number 80 of Steve Hinden looks to have plenty of clean air in front of him. He's currently down in 13th place and wanting to improve. But Jack Noller, speaking of improvement, driver of the number 36, hops up to 2nd place on the grid at 2:08.934. Closes that gap to Luca Burke down to 4 tenths of a second. But David, looking at that timing screen, sectors 1 and 2, Jackson losing 3 tenths followed by 2 tenths. There's a lot of time in the opening 2/3 of the lap.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tim. I think the only sector Luca is not properly on the pace, at least compared to the driver, seems to be that final sector. So potentially time in the back pocket for the Rocket Simsport 87 car. But yeah, he's a little bit slow. He's, like you say, he's got a bit of pace in the final sector, and he's a little bit quicker than Buncombe in the middle sector as well, which is giving him that extra bit of time. We'll keep an eye on whether he improves. But I did notice on there as well, I think everyone else may have seen it as well, but it's saying for a lot of drivers, 6 laps on the timing sheet now for most of these drivers. As Dan Handover goes 3rd place, 6 tenths off with an not identical lap time. It's almost very close, but yeah, very close lap time to our Buncombe. And yeah, they're getting to the point where they're either going to need to finish off their qualifying laps and just settle for what they have, or potentially have to strap on a new set of tyres.
Florian Bauer here in the number 10 eSport Designs machine. He is 6 tenths up on his best lap time. That could see him improve all the way up to the first row, depending on this final sequence of corners, running slightly wide, understeering almost through Brooklands, and a massive spat of flames into Luffield. It looked like the car was sliding on entry, but he manages to get it gathered up through the exit and on the run through Woodcote to cross the line. Let's see, can Bauer leap up the grid? And he does, but a disappointing one position gains. It looked like he had so much speed, but David, that final complex costing Bauer handfuls of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw where it all went wrong, didn't you? He came into Brooklands and just went a bit too deep, and then that offset him going into Luffield. So he had a bit too much counter steering, went a little bit too wide, and then you just saw a smatter of oversteer as he went through Luffield. Just those flames shot out the back as well, which was a nice sight for us, but probably not the favourite sight for him. So still time for him to get another lap or two in. They got just under 4 minutes left as Steve Hinden comes down the hanger straight, going hammer it as fast as he can, going down now towards Club, and fortunately losing a bit of time, I understand, but yeah, it's not really worked out very well for Steve, is it? Unfortunately, he's certainly got the pace. He's proven that he's quick enough to run with these guys, but he's just been caught up in a few too many incidents, which is seeing him drop down the grid early on, and it's really just been a struggle for him to get back up the field.
And here's a wild card in tonight's entry, Al Buncombe. He's a couple of tenths up on his time, currently in 4th position. He stays to the right-hand side and jumps up to 2nd. So it's a Rocket Simsport front row lockout as it stands with just under 3 minutes to go. 4 tenths though, still the margin between Buncombe and Burke. On screen, driver of number 87 car on the way up to Stowe. He's still out on track, still seeking to improve his time, still seeking to put this championship to bed before we even begin the 90 minutes feature race. But here we go, into Club, through the left and right, using all of the track room possible, and out through the final part of that difficult corner. It just induces understeer, as do many of the fast right-handers here at Silverstone. A clockwise circuit providing plenty of challenge. And through Abbey, the car looking fairly settled. He's got a little bit of traffic up ahead. I think that could be Bastian Zenefels or Darrell Lupton for Podium Sim Racing. But as he goes through the arena section into the loop, Burke looking in fine form indeed. Gets the power down nice and early. And as he runs through Aintree, uses all the curb on entry and exit once again. And as he heads down towards the final sequence of corners at Brooklands and Luffield, he's a 10th up on his time, so he could extend that margin. He's going to have to do more though if he wants to stop any challenge as he goes through Brooklands and Luffield. The car looking a lot more stable than we saw Florian Bauer a few moments ago. And on the run out of the final corner, it's pedal to the metal for Luca Burke. Across the curb on the inside there, and on the run to the line, yes, he does. An improvement from the reigning champion. He finds another 10th. And really, David, that is laying down the marker. He is not wanting to be beaten at all tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That penalty from last week seems to have lit the fire underneath the Rocket Simsport driver. And he's perfectly placed for it, isn't he? He's got himself on pole as it stands. And I mean, that's a big margin. Half a second from any of those guys really is going to be quite difficult to do. We can see Ross McGregor's actually jumped it up into 3rd, so he's gained a 10th or so to get himself up. That's exactly what he needs to be doing. But I think Luca is doing exactly what he needs to do with that penalty in mind. He knows he's got that 15-second penalty against his name. We've mentioned it enough times. I'm sure we will mention it again, and it will be a very interesting talking point should anything come out of it as well. But it's almost, to him, it's almost like changing tyres or not. So it's going to be really interesting to see whether he does actually elect to change rubber at the pit stop with that penalty in mind, because you're probably looking at about double the time. So you could offset the penalty by not changing tyres. However, at a track like Silverstone, how do you then combat that? Because you've then got to worry about the tyre wear as well. So it's a bit of a rock and a hard place for Luca Burke. I think what he'll be planning to do is, with the speed he seems to have, is just kind of disappear off out front, a la Sebastian Vettel at Red Bull from many moons ago, and give him that grace period to allow him to do whatever he pleases at the pit stop phase.
So Buncombe, Handover, Bauer, Lavoie, Cloutier and Brockies, they're all in pit lane. So they've accepted their fate and their starting position on the grid. But on screen at the moment, championship contender Ross McGregor in the number 33 could nab 2nd place on the grid. He is up on his time at the moment, currently in 3rd place, still half a second slower than his championship contender. He's 2/10 up on his time as he exits the middle sector and through Aintree. Now the long run down the Wellington Straight under the bridge and in towards Brooklands, using all of the track on exit as he turns in through the left-hander, potentially losing a little bit of time there. The car a bit of understeer mid-corner. McGregor manages to gather it up though through Luffield. He's going to have his foot flat to the floor. No, he's bailing out on his time, bailing out on the lap at the last offering. What a shame. McGregor apparently a 10th up, but opted to bail on his lap, and it looks like David Burke is going to take pole position and crucially one more point against his name in the championship standings.
Yeah, absolutely. Advantage Luca Burks. What's that? A 12-point gap at this moment in time as Regan Mitchell's coming through the final couple of corners. He's got a couple of tenths in hand, so he's going to shoot himself potentially right up into the thick of things. It's a real shame that Ross still elected to bin off the lap. Like I say, I wonder if he did dip a wheel off and invalidate the lap at some point, and then maybe he's just using that as a chance just to practice pit entry. Of course, that might not have been something he's had a chance to do. Regan Mitchell, goodness me, goes up into second place, and we talked about it, Tim. Half of that combined total there is between the drivers across the qualifying for first and second. There it's been done by Luca Burke being nearly half a second quicker than Regan Mitchell. Would you believe?
What a flying lap to round out the season though from Regan Mitchell. He jumps up to second place on the grid and adds another car into the mix. So now two drivers separate our championship contenders, but the Simsport Solutions driver isn't in with a fight for the title. So Luca Burke on pole, starting the final race of the championship in the best possible position. He also adds another point to his name, a 2:08.343, his best time. Regan Mitchell, like we saw right at the end there, taking second place. Simsport Solutions driver will be looking to round out what has been an up and down season with a strong final race. Alex Buncombe, a wild card, like we said, third place on the grid. He's joined by Ross McGregor on the second row. So David, two cars in the mix. That's going to be causing problems, particularly for Ross McGregor.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to get past Al Buncombe, and we know he's not one to let someone just disappear around the outside or make a move very easily. So it's going to be a difficult job for Ross. He's in the best position he possibly can be. I think he's qualified well enough. He's not right the way down the grid and stuck in the middle of things. So if he can try and get the move done on Al Buncombe nice and early, he can turn his focus to Regan Mitchell. And again, he's a wily old fox. He's not going to be someone who's going to be easy to pass, but if he can do that quickly enough, he can make a couple of moves early doors and try and get on the back of Luca Burke. That's really the way he's going to have to try and force something from Luca, because then he's got to try and get into the head almost, just stick behind him, see if he can force a mistake if he can, and if not, try and get Luca to do something a little bit dodgy through the pit stop phase. Again, with that penalty implied, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult for him. But I mean, look, although there's only one championship to be fought for between those two, despite that, there is going to be some fantastic racing across all 18 drivers tonight. I can guarantee everyone watching that.
So as Steve Proudley rattles down the centre of the grid on the Simsport Solutions Segway, let's run you down the order. It's Burke, Mitchell, Buncombe, McGregor, the top four, with Noller and Handover on row 3. Then it's Chris Crossman in 7th alongside Florian Bauer in the number 10 eSport Designs car. Then it's John Clements and David Belanger in the 222, rounding out your top 10. Then on the left of the screen, the black car with pink accents, that's Bastian Zenefels in the number 64 for Podium Sim Racing. He's joined alongside with Thomas Lavoie in the number 20 EGT Motorsports machine in 12th place, which I believe might be his best qualifying of the season. Indeed it is. Then it's another one of the EGT cars. It's Pierre-Olivier Cloutier in the number 39 with series organiser Steve Hinden looking to round out the championship with a points finish. He's in 14th place on the grid. Then Darrell Upton, the driver who leads the Fast Forward Championship for most positions gained, he starts in 15th, so he stands a good opportunity to add some more points to his name and potentially bag himself 2 tickets to the British Grand Prix. Then Kieran Vidago in 16th, the number 4 Simsport racing car, with the 2E Team Brick guys rounding out the back of the grid. Bradley Brockies and Max Spooner will certainly have their eyes on another points finish. And David, whilst I was running through the grid there, the talking point of the night popped up on screen. there is that 15-second penalty next to Burke's name. That's going to cause a headache in terms of strategy tonight, I'm sure of it.
Absolutely, like you say, I do think it's going to be one of those. He's going to have to play the balancing act of tyres or no tyres, and we've seen the majority of what he's done so far, barring Spa, if I remember correctly, he hasn't actually gone for tyres. And as you quite appropriately mentioned to him last week, he's still yet to win a feature race in this Esport Designs Cayman Supercup, and he set the gauntlet out early doors. He's certainly done what he needed to do and got it quite convincingly on pole in the end. But one other person, of course, who was caught up in it is Jack Noller. He got a 15-second penalty for the, I think it was to do with the Regan Mitchell coming together into Ravazza at Imola last week when he just caught a wheel on the grass and just went straight through. But that's certainly not set off the Simsport Solutions car at all, because, of course, he's sitting on that front row. So, yeah, plenty to look for. Of course, as far as I know, that penalty does have to be served in the pit lane. Can't leave that and just serve it at the end of the race. So he is going to have to sit still for 15 seconds, and that's going to feel like an eternity, especially if everyone sticks nice and close to him throughout the start of this race.
So we are 12 seconds away from rolling on to the formation lap of the final round of the season. Regan Mitchell on the front row. Back to the front row, competitive in the final round of last season at Donington Park, where he finished third. That was his best result in the championship to date. Can he match it this evening or go one better? The cars roll away from the grid. Burke leads this stunning grid of Caymans, and David, really a last opportunity to add that this grid is got to be one of the best looking we've seen in sim racing. All the designs by Esport Designs, and hats off again to Steve Hinden for pulling together what is a kaleidoscope of Cayman colours.
Oh, absolutely. They are absolutely stunning, aren't they? There's so many different weird and wonderful designs out there, and I'm quite privileged to have actually driven in one as well. Of course, drove in the Cayman at the AOR 8 Hours of Cheshire, and we'll be doing so in the Aston Martin in a couple of weeks at the 24 Hours of Suzuka as well. So I've driven them firsthand, and it's very difficult to drive in them when you're as big a fan of them as I am, because you keep wanting to have a look at them. And fortunately for us, in the commentary box, Steve Proudley, our broadcast director, does a fantastic job of keeping an eye on every single one of them, so we get to see every single beautifully detailed livery throughout every single race so far this season, and this final one tonight.
So here they are on to the hangar straight. They're trundling down. Burke not opting to engage in the weaving that Mitchell seems to be enjoying there. I don't know whether he's trying to play a little bit of mind games with the championship leader, or indeed he's trying to warm his tyres and brakes to the best of his ability. As we go on board, this double camera shot looking back at the driver. Can't quite see the red mist descending just yet, but I'm sure if Regan Mitchell sees an opportunity to pass Burke, he won't be holding back. And that's another thing to factor in, David, isn't it? Well, look, we can see the obvious drivers in Mitchell and Buncombe separate the championship contenders. But behind, Noller, Handover, Crossman, Bauer, Clements, Belanger, there's plenty of drivers that, if given the opportunity, given a whiff of a good result, they're going to want to take it with both hands.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Like you say, Buncombe and Handover for this evening, they are effectively in an unwritten way, they are the rear gunners for Burke and McGregor respectively, so they are going to have to do what they need to do, I think, to just become a bit of a fly in the ointment to the respective rival in terms of the championship effects. But like you say, Regan Mitchell, Jack Noller, Chris Crossman, Bauer, Clements, any one of the top 10 really, if things start to close up, which I'm pretty sure they will, they're going to be fancying their chances of getting the best result possible, and that all starts to throw a cat amongst the pigeons in terms of what happens in this championship. So look, Luca Burke's got a 12-point advantage. We know that because he's got an extra point for pole. But this it's not a completed thing. This is not Luca Burke's championship by any stretch, because we've got an hour and a half of flat-out racing, including a strategy call as well. And anything like that going wrong will completely throw your chances out the window. So it's going to be fantastic to watch.
So the drivers then rounding the second sector, entering the final third of the lap here at Silverstone. getting the cars up to temperature, getting everything set. You're not going to want any distractions for the next 90 minutes of flat out action. And that goes for you watching from wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us for this final round of the season. Thank you as well for all your support across the 6 races up to this point. It's been fantastic to bring you along for the ride, and hopefully you've enjoyed every second of it just as much as David and Steve Proudley, our broadcast director, and myself, Tim Fullbrook, have done. So the grid forms up into their respective rows, 2 rows of 9 cars, and we have a race before us that will decide the second championship, and indeed this final round at Silverstone will see a champion crowned. All good things must come to an end, but it's time for one last dance. Will it be double trouble for Burke or a new winner in McGregor? Let's see. 90 minutes before us. It's the final round of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy. We're about to go green flag, and 90 minutes before us to decide the title. Burke on the inside, waiting for the green, and we do go green. Burke gets a fantastic start. He cuts across immediately to stop the advantages of Regan Mitchell, who holds on to second place for now. Al Buncombe looking to hold off Ross McGregor, and does so. So it's Burke, Mitchell, Buncombe, McGregor as they head into Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. They're 2 wide further back in the order, but it seems at the moment everyone has got through cleanly. That's the first challenge and the first obstacle leapt for Luca Burke. He's now going to have to kick on, because down the long hanger straight, immediately Mitchell is looking to challenge. He's in the slipstream behind the Rocket Simsport car, heading up towards Stowe, although it looks like he hasn't been able to get close enough on the brakes into the right-hander. Burke holds on to his race lead, and David, that is exactly what Luca would have needed to do. Get a good start, no challenge. He's leading the way.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. He's done exactly what he needed to do over those first couple of corners. Great to see everyone's gotten away cleanly. No incidents of note that we've seen just yet. I'm just looking through the timing tower. Everyone seems to have gotten away cleanly. Vidago making some moves. Cloutier getting past Steve Hindon. We've seen a couple of moves. Bauer's gone up a couple of positions as well, which is good to see. But Luca Burke is in pole position as it stands. And he's got someone behind him in the form of Regan Mitchell, who is not going to make any silly moves. He's a very calculated driver. I've commentated and raced with him a handful of times up until this point, and I know that he is going to, if he's going to make a move, it will be calculated and it will be clean as it needs to be. So Luca is in perfect position. He's just got to stick with what he's doing. He's got someone safe behind him. He's got a teammate behind him as well. Ross McGregor is 3 positions behind him, and that's exactly the way this first lap would have wanted to go for the Rocket Simsport driver.
So as they thunder down the Wellington Straight and back into Brooklands for the first time of asking on your screen at the moment, this is Daniel Handover, who joined the series. Only a couple of races to go, but has been attempting to make his mark, as Florian Bauer is all over the back of the number 43's Ancho Simsport car. The number 10 looking to fight his way through on the exit of Luffield, closing up as they run across the start-finish line. So we'll call them as they break the timing line. It is Luca Burke leads away by 0.7 of a second from Al Buncombe and Ross McGregor. Then it's Jack Noller rounding out the top 5, a further 0.8 back. Daniel Handover in 6th, with Florian Bauer 7th. Chris Crossman, John Clements and David Belanger round out your top 10. It's Bastien Zenefels, Pierre-Olivier Cloutier and Steve Hindon, with Kieran Vidago and Daryl Upton rounding out your top 15 positions. It looks like we do have one casualty. Thomas Lavoie for EGT Motorsport in the number 20 Cayman has headed back to pit lane. Whether or not that's a strategy call or damage, we won't know. But this is championship game on. Ross McGregor trying to make a move on Al Buncombe. He's going to the outside on the run up the crest into Stowe. Can the number 33 make it stick? They're still side by side through the long right-hander. Buncombe on the inside, which now becomes the outside on the run into the chicane at Club. It's advantage McGregor on the inside, but Buncombe's gone late on the brakes. He's trying to swoop around the outside. McGregor climbs the curb, but is slowed on his run through the complex and nearly backs up into Jack Noller, who has to get off the throttle to avoid contact with one of the championship contenders. And now on the run down the Hamilton Straight, once again McGregor looks to the inside. Daniel Handover, a mirror image copy of his teammate, looking up the inside of Jack Noller. But as they run through the farm curve and into Village, as Florian Bauer looks up the inside of Dan Handover, can he get the move done? No, they still It's a stalemate between the two of them on the run into the loop. Chris Crossman appeared to be making a move as well. But David, that is a clear statement of intent from Ross McGregor. He wants through on Buncombe. He wants to climb the ladder and fight it out with Burke.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see already, Tim, the gap that Luca Burke has pulled out. He's got a second and a bit on Regan Mitchell, who's then got a second, roughly about the same amount of time on the back of Al Buncombe as well. But that was fantastic racecraft from the two of them there. No quarter given, but very fair at the same time. You see Chris Crossman under a bit of pressure from John Clements in the podium sim racing machine, the number 88 car. But Ross McGregor is going to be trying to make this move as soon as possible, because you can see the gap that started to form with the runners ahead. It's 1.4 by 1.4 from 2/10 back to him there, and it was very fortunate that Jack Noller didn't collect them behind as well. But all clean at the moment. But Luca Burke is still starting to run away with it a little bit, so Ross needs to make this move sooner rather than later.
And again, looking to the inside on the run into Maggots and Beckett, and as McGregor is attempting to make his way past Al Buncombe, Luca Burke is setting the fastest lap of the race at 2:09.1. Purple all three sectors. He's the man on a mission, disappearing up the road. Let's see though, is it seconds out round two? Ross McGregor again in the slipstream of Buncombe, down the hanger straight. He's looking for a way past into Stowe. He dives to the inside, but I don't think he's quite got the overlap. No, he has to back out of it and fall into line. Number 23 still ahead of number 33 on the run down into Club. Buncombe dipping a wheel into the grass there, almost unsettling his Cayman on the run through the chicane, and it looks like McGregor's got a better run through the left, right, and then right again onto the Hamilton straight. He's in the slipstream and closing ever more so on the run into Abbey, as Florian Bauer has a look at the inside of Daniel Handover on the run into the fast right-hander. This is a battle for the final step on the podium though between McGregor and Buncombe, and as they scrap, Burke continues to make his escape at the top of the field, now 1.7 seconds over Regan Mitchell. Side by side, Steve Hindon and Kieran Vidago. Vidago trying to go around the outside, which becomes the inside on the run into the loop, but Hindon's able to carry fantastic momentum around the outside. They're still side by side through Aintree. Vidago tries to close the door, but Hindon is not going down without a fight as they run down the Wellington Straight and into Brooklands. Side-by-side action between the two drivers fighting for 13th place. As meanwhile, further up the order, Florian Bauer has got the overlap on Daniel Handover. He's looking round the outside and there is contact between the two of them. It looked like Bauer just got loose on the exit, and a contact side to side between the two Caymans has allowed Chris Crossman to close up and make it three, fighting for P6. Crossman looking to the inside as Bauer goes so deep, David, nearly making contact with Handover on the run into Cops.
I mean, goodness me, the racecraft's been absolutely cracking so far in his first 7 minutes, but there's been a couple of close shaves as Chris Crossman just slips in behind the eSport Designs number 10 car. But these guys are not messing around. I think they know, look, this is the last time we're going to be able to get out and race these lot. Let's put on a bit of a show for us, for you and I and the viewers, and they're doing a fantastic job of it at the moment. There is no quarter given. I'm just looking at the timing board on Pitwall Live, and it's Luca Burke at 2:08.9. That's only 0.6 of a second off his pole time. As you see Florian Bauer going to the inside on the grass, just trying to hold on to it, but Dan Handover gets the momentum out of the corner and still holds on. He's going to have the inside going into Club, and I see Florian Bauer, so he just chicks to the inside. Lovely late move from him, bit of contact, bit of a nudge between them. Handover's still there, Crossman's getting involved, Clements isn't too far behind. They're 3 wide going on to the Hamilton straight. There's a bit of contact there. Handover spins, I think that's Belanger as well there, and it was only going to come to blows. It's unfortunate it had to, but up until that point, that was fantastic racing. It's just a shame it had to end.
3 wide they were going into Club, and I think that the driver on the inside, which was Chris Crossman, was just completely unsighted for the eSport Designs car of Florian Bowers. There's a spin up ahead. Looks like Buncombe has spun at the loop. That's elevated Ross McGregor to 3rd place. They were close together when the camera caught up with the action, and we saw the Rocket Simsport car spinning to the inside. He's now got back going again, but he's locked in battle now with Dan Handover and Bastian Zenefels down in 8th, 9th and 10th positions. Buncombe 2 wheels on the grass, potentially carrying damage if there was contact with Ross McGregor. As they run through Brooklands, Buncombe holds on to the position for now, But for the number 23 driver, he's fallen right back into this battle pack, which we saw, it did end in tears, half a lap ago. David, it feels like we've had an entire race already. We're only 8 3/4 minutes into this 90-minute race.
Oh, absolutely. This is fantastic work. Like you say, a couple of incidents here and there, but it's Robin is racing, and unfortunately, obviously, there Al Buncombe getting caught up. I think it was just a case of Ross McGregor looked like he came around the outside and a little bit of a tap between the two drivers. I'm just keeping an eye. You see there's an EGT Motorsport car, I think, out on the back end there. I wonder if that is Pierre-Olivier Cloutier, excuse me, going wide there. So he's going to drop himself down. Thomas Lavoie, of course, the only man to have pit so far. That looks to be a strategy call. He seems to be clawing up some time on Max Spooner at the moment. We're going to cut to a replay to see what happened here. Is this going to be... this looks like they're coming together between McGregor and Buncombe. In fact, looking at that, McGregor's actually already ahead of Al Buncombe, and it looks like Al's just going to jump up the inside into the loop. He does late on the brakes. 2 lines isn't going to work there. It looked a little bit of a soft move from Al Buncombe, and he paid the price there, Tim, didn't he?
It was on a wing and a prayer trying to make that one stick on Ross McGregor, who has been cool and collected throughout this season up to this point. And we didn't see it, but he was already through on Al Buncombe and up into 3rd place. And Buncombe fighting back, but unable to make it stick. McGregor lives to fight on and potentially keeps his championship alive. As it stands, we're 10 minutes into this, 80 minutes to go. But Burke will leave here champion if we froze the results now and through the checkered flag. But a long way to go. And David, anything that can happen usually does happen in the Cayman Cup.
Absolutely, yeah. Freeze the results now. No, I'll take another 80 minutes of this. Thank you very much. I'll exchange my chips right now. That'd be nice. And yeah, I mean, like I say, it's just not over. You honestly couldn't predict this. You go back to Spa being exactly the kind of race that you just cannot predict. These feature races have thrown up all sorts of action, jeopardy, and all sorts of interesting stuff as they go through. Steve Hindley, you see sliding as he goes through Brooklands and in towards Luffield. It's just one of those, you cannot forecast what this result's going to be. I'm really interested now to see how Ross McGregor gets on. He was 0.3 quicker on the last lap than Regan Mitchell was. Importantly, half a second slower than our current race leader, Luca Burke. So he's going to have to try and claw that gap back to Mitchell, make the move, and then set his sights on the number 87 car over the next few laps.
Sounds easy, doesn't it, David? Right.
Easier said than done, absolutely. Especially if you've got someone like Luca Burke in front of you with the pace he has.
Absolutely, and one driver already making their strategy call out the back of the grid in 18th position, Thomas Lavoie in the number 20 EGT Motorsports car. He's made his pit stop, so a perfect time to highlight on the timing tower on the left-hand side, next to every driver's name, bar Thomas Lavoie at the bottom of the order, there's a little orange box with the number 1. That shows that the drivers still need to head to pit lane. They should have a green box next to their number, as you can see, as per Tom Ward demonstrating lovely, that once that green box emerges, they have made their mandatory visit to pit lane. So still 17 cars to stop. It'd be keen to it'd be good to keep an eye on Lavoie and see where he emerges once the stops play out. That is a very early stop to head to pit lane after the first lap, but getting out of the battle and staying clean and hot lapping is something that, David, we've seen is very important, because you just lose time when you're locked in fights, don't you?
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, I'm just looking at his pit stop time. It was only 43 seconds. So there's absolutely no chance whatsoever he took tyres in that one. So he's going to be effectively our control variable. We'll see what the timings are compared to him. But yeah, I'm just looking at the lap times at the moment. He's actually quicker than the next 5 drivers in front of him, up to and including Pierre-Olivier Cloutier. But of course, Cloutier had a bit of an incident going into Maggotts and Beckett's in the last lap. So it's going to be interesting to see where he comes out. And we'll use him as our yardstick to see how everyone else gets on as well. But at the moment, Chris Crossman, under pressure from Al Buncombe as they go into Luffield, getting very close as they come out of Brooklands. But Crossman holding on for the time being, as Steve Hindon has got Darrell Upton for company. Like I say, he's aiming for that fast forward trophy. He's gained a couple of positions so far, but Steve holding on at the moment. But it looks like, Tim, Darrell might be getting another position on that lap chart before the end of this race and before potentially the end of the next lap.
29 points to his name in terms of the Fast Forward Championship, and he's looking to make it 30 as they slide through Copse, nearly making contact, those two Caymans on the ragged edge with the iconic fast right-hander, and as they come into Maggots and Beckett's, the order stays the same. I don't think it'll be long before we see another move attempt by the driver of the number 21 Podium Sim Racing car. We are coming up towards 15 minutes into this. Crossman on your screen at the moment in the number 3. He is challenged by Al Buncombe, who's looking to fight back up the order after a spin with Ross McGregor, who lives to fight another day in 3rd place as they run out through Stowe and down the hill through the Vale into Club. Buncombe goes to the outside, but Crossman is going to defend his line through the left and through the right. Buncombe trying to set up a bit of a cut back on the exit of the double right-hander. It doesn't seem to have come off just yet. They blast down the Hamilton straight in front of the rather elaborate Silverstone wing, and they turn into the right-hander at Abbey. Crossman holds on to the position for now. This is P7, and just behind Zenefels and Handover in the fight as well. So one slip up here and you could lose a multiple of positions, as Buncombe's going to try and make the move on Crossman that he failed to do on McGregor. He gets through, there's contact with the rear of Buncombe and the front of the number 3, and Buncombe just slides out wide and he's lost out to Zenefels, and it looks like Daniel Handover's got through. Again, David, Buncombe trying to make that move, it's just not paying off for him.
No, absolutely, Tim. It opens up for him, and the loop is one of those corners where, as we've mentioned on a few tracks so far, it is one of those similar to some of the corners at Paul Ricard from a few weeks ago, where there is multiple lines, and Al's trying it. It's just not paying off at the moment. But I did see Chris Crossman just got a little bit squirrely coming out of Village, so it just gave him the opportunity. But he just needs to be a little bit more careful. If he just braked a little bit early, might have been alongside, might have been able to get his foot in the door a bit more, and unfortunately that's just going to be noted down as a racing incident. But as you mentioned, that's dropped him down. That's dropped him a little bit further down, and it's bringing the man in 11th place, Kieran Vidago, into play, as he is lapping faster than at the moment.
So the driver of the number 4 hustling on, he's in 11th at the moment, has his sights set on a top 10 finish. Here's that battle between Steve Hinden and Darrell Upton still continuing, as I'm seeing that there is a penalty has gone the way of Florian Bauer, I believe. Is that correct, David? The number 10 looks to have picked up 15 seconds. I'm just trying to have a look. Yes, a collision with the number 43 causing a spin, and that's Daniel Handover. So we are seeing the stewards active tonight once again. Our live stewarding provided by Race Department. So 15 seconds going the way of Florian Bauer. As we see down the hill and around the outside, Darrell Upton gets the move done over Steve Hinden, who, as you can see on your screen, number 80, receiving another 15-second penalty for causing a collision with car number 39. That's Pierre-Olivier Cloutier. So the two eSport Designs cars, David, in the wars, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm just trying to picture back to what they were. I would imagine the Bauer one was that coming together, what we saw coming onto the Hamilton straight. I think it looked like Crossman was a bit out of sight, but you can only imagine that what the stewards have looked back on is they've seen that Florian's potentially been a little bit over aggressive, because obviously that was when we saw Handover take that little spin and a bit of a pirouette, and then Steve Hinden, I think we saw Pierre-Olivier Cloutier on the grass going into Maggots and Beckett's a few laps ago, so I wonder if there's a bit of a coming together towards them. But Bastian Zenefels looking round the outside of our Buncombe going to Brooklands. Buncombe breaks late, but Zenefels is going to look for the cutback. It's not going to be something he's going to get, because Buncombe manages to close the gap as they go into Luffield, so Zenefels is going to have to wait a little bit longer. But of course, as you mentioned, as I think what you appropriately mentioned is what happened on the last lap, Tim. You make a mistake, if you make a move and it doesn't quite come off, there's two very eager cars in the form of Handover and Vidago waiting in the wings to nick a couple of positions off of yourself if you're not too careful.
Such is the racing here in the eSport Designs Cayman Supercup, as Buncombe runs very wide through Copse, all four wheels over the white line and beyond, as behind there's Daniel Handover, very much eager to make his way past Bastian Zenefels, having a look up the inside into Maggots, but couldn't get the job done, and that's cost him momentum through the iconic sequence of turns, allowing Kieran Vidago to close up 5 Caymans, separated by a matter of tenths on your screen. That's Crossman leading the pack, 7th place, all the way down to 11th on your camera shot as they go up through Stowe Bastian Zenefels holding on to 9th place for now. His best result of 7th coming at Spa this season. As they head down the hill, this wonderful splitter cam brought to you by Steve Proudley of Simsport Solutions, the broadcast team here, running through club. You can just see how drivers use different lines. Bunkum's line, it seems, is to use as much of the track on exit as is humanly possible, and then some more, as they run through Abbey, taking all of the curb on the inside and kicking up the dust for the long left into Village. The right-hander, it's almost a hairpin, as Crossman goes deep though, and that's going to allow Bunkum through. You won't have to ask twice. He takes that position, so Bunkum up to 7th place. Crossman drops back down. Zenefels and Handover, however, were not close enough to benefit as well. And all the while, Kieran Vidago has his crosshairs set still on the back of that number 43 Zancho Simsport car. That is Daniel Handover in the 43, the blue and silver car with the red and yellow stripe down the sides, as they go through Brooklands and into Luffield. And at the moment, the battle is raging on. This is the closest fight we've got there out on track, as Kieran Vidago runs slightly wide, gets all kind of crossed up on the exit of Luffield. But Burke, David, he's setting about doing exactly what we might have feared. He's nearly got a 7-second advantage over Regan Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim, and it's working in his favour, the penalties that are being applied as well. McGregor's catching Mitchell, you can see he's within a second now on that picture on the left-hand side, but he's not really close enough. He has obviously got the benefit, and you can see Luca Burke a little bit further down the hanger straight at the moment, so he's got that little bit of a carrot dangling in front of him. But unfortunately for him, the drivers who are really in a position to cause Luca some issues in terms of getting in front of him in the pit stop phase, I'm looking at the likes of Noller, Bauer and Clements potentially. 2 of the 3 of those have got 15-second penalties of their own, so it's not really negating Burke in any way, shape or form. So still a lot of work for Ross to do. It's still by no means over. We have no idea what could happen between now and the end of this race in the next 70 minutes, but what we can be sure of is plenty more action up and down the field, as Chris Crossman is starting to fall back a little bit from Al Bunkum, and in turn is coming under a bit of increasing pressure from Zenefels and Handover.
So Vidago, though, he's the driver that seems to have dropped off the back of this pack. Indeed, you can just barely see him in camera shot. He was close behind. A slight slide at Luffield saw him lose momentum, but now it looks like he's dropped back quite significantly. A 2-second deficit to this group on screen. Zenefels coming under fire from Daniel Handover, who looks one way, then the next, and finds the road blocked on the run into the loop. It looks like he's going to get the cut back, though, on the exit. No, he just runs into the back of Zenefels. A bit of a tap, a bit of a come on mate, get a move on and want to get through, almost a touring car tactic. Rubbing is racing, David, but we don't want to see that. You know, you're playing with fine margins, aren't you, in those kind of situations, especially on an on-throttle part of the track like the exit of the loop.
Absolutely, yes. It's a difficult one to cross. You see Steve Hinden managed to get, well, he's actually trying to get past Darrell Upton, sorry. He's going round the outside, inside into Luffield. They've gotten past Kieran Vidago. You can see he's just in the background of that. So he's had a horror show of a lap this time round, starting with a bit of oversteer coming out of Luffield. But Hinden makes the move cleanly this time, and that just drops Darrell back down into 13th. But yeah, just to go back to your point, like you say, it's a difficult balancing act because Handover is going to be coming out of one of the slowest corners onto another straight. He wants to try and get as much power out of there as possible, but then he's got a number 64 machine right in front of him. So they're going through Maggotts and Beckett's, and they're close again, as you can now see, Tim, that Kieran Vidago is pitted. So a couple of issues for him, maybe electing to drop that set of boots and go for a fresh one now.
Had all the hallmarks of potentially a puncture, didn't it? He lost loads of time, multiple seconds on that lap, and he's straight into the pit. So I wouldn't be surprised if the number 4 Simsport Racing Cayman had picked up some sort of tyre issue on that previous lap. But the fight continues on for what is now 9th and 10th positions. That was Zenefels and Handover still scrapping away. But this is the fight for second place. Regan Mitchell is now 8.1 seconds off the back of the race leader. He's going to have to start looking in his mirrors because Ross McGregor has closed up at a rate of knots. On that previous lap, he was 2.5 tenths faster than the Simsport Solutions driver. So 69 and 33 are going to start battling out for second place on the podium. McGregor, though, David, this is such an issue for the championship contender. He's got to make a move, and he's got to make it cleanly, as we see Mitchell defending to the inside on the run down to Brooklands, onto the extreme left of the track, into the long left-hander. McGregor goes to the outside. Can he get it done? He is still alongside, but no, loses out on the exit and falls back in line. But David, back to my point, McGregor can't afford to make a half-assed move here. If he's getting past, he's got to get past, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. And I said it at the top of the race. He's got the right person to be making a move past, because Regan Mitchell is an extremely clever racer. He's very clean as well. He'll give as good as he gets, but he'll never. I've never really seen him do anything too outlandish or too silly to cause the incident. So, like you say, Ross has just got to bide his time a little bit. He can't take too long, of course. I know it's a bit contradictory, but he can't take too long as they go into Maggotts and Beckett's, one of the fastest sections on the track. But he's just got to try and get around him cleanly as possible, and like you say, just try not to lose too much time. As I'm seeing, unfortunately, Kieran Vidago did go into the pit lane, and he now seems to have disappeared from the server entirely. I'm not sure whether that was a connection issue with any of his hardware, but it's a shame, because saw him got a fair way up the grid, and then, like you say, whether it's a punch or something else, has dropped right the way back down again, which is a real shame. Well,
David, the answer to your question immediately appearing in the YouTube chat, Kieran Vidago saying that his paddle shifter snapped. Now that's one to add to the list, isn't it, for reasons for retirement this season. We've had symptoms post COVID-19 vaccine. We've had a lot of other things, but paddle shifter snapping is certainly one that we haven't seen. So that's a shame. Kieran Vidago dropping out of the race then. 25 minutes into the final round of the Esport Designs Cayman Cup, and that's a disappointing way to go, David.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose if you're going to translate that into the real world, that's a gearbox issue, I would imagine, is the case.
He got stuck in fifth. He's just said, actually, on the YouTube chat, got stuck in fifth, so that is a gearbox issue, but in the game, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Not ideal when you're going through some of these slower corners, being stuck in fifth. I imagine coming out of the loop would have been absolute agony. Coming out of that final corner, you see Regan Mitchell shapes the inside, covering down the Wellington Straight and into Brooklands. McGregor tries the outside again. Then now he's lost a second on that last lap to Luca Burke outside of Luffield. Is he going to try and go for the cutback and get the exit? It looks like he will, but Regan Mitchell gets a fairly tidy exit out onto the main straight. Ross McGregor is as close as he ever has been, Tim. He wants to try and make the move, and he's looking like he's got a great run out of the final corner. But I don't know if he's got the right corner in front of him to make that move stick.
Mitchell then holds on to second place for now. He made the almost NASCAR highline work on the exit of Luffield, and then they were almost bump drafting along the start-finish straight and into Maggotts and Beckett's. McGregor looks to the outside, trying to swoop back underneath that rear wing of the number 69 Simsport Solutions Cayman, but he can't get the job done. They're all four wheels over the curb on the right-hand side before flinging the car through Chapel and onto the hanger straight for the 13th time. Mosh McGregor is really trying to make this pass happen now, but Mitchell seems to be putting that car exactly where he needs to be to stop the championship contender gaining another position as they run through Stowe, both of them running four wheels over the white line on the exit. Could be another potential track limits warning. And speaking of track limits, it looks like Florian Bauer has picked up a drive-through penalty. I can only assume that is indeed for cutting the track one too many times. As Mitchell, though, slightly slow on the exit of Club. That's allowed the overlap. McGregor to the inside. This could be important for the championship. They turn into Abbey. Slight contact on the way in. They're side by side still as they run through Farm, and up into Village. The tight right-hander McGregor opts to go to the outside, which, if he can hold on, will become the inside into the loop. Can he get it done? There's another bump. McGregor spinning to the inside, catches the slide, and they are still side by side, door handle to door handle on the exit of the arena section. McGregor on the inside, though, looks to have got the job done. And just as two go side by side, there's a third party involved. Jack Noller sweeps through on Regan Mitchell and up into third place. And on this run into Brooklands, late on the brakes, nearly collects the rear end of our championship contender, the number 33. It's still Noller and Mitchell going side by side through Luffield. Jack trying to get the move done on the inside, which he was rather forced to that position. considering how deep he was in the previous corner. They're still side by side across the line, and this is allowing McGregor to scamper up the road, nearly a second advantage over the two of them. Mitchell goes from second to fourth in the space of half a lap, and David, that is so important for McGregor's championship chances.
Oh, that was heart-in-mouth moments going into Brooklands, wasn't it? I did not think Jack Noller was going to get that thing stopped. It was shades of Ravazza from last week, where he actually collected the man he's just managed to overtake, Regan Mitchell. And I was terrified that he was going to do the same thing to Ross McGregor. He did a fantastic job of just keeping hard enough on the anchors that he didn't actually go into the back of him. And like you say, he's managed to make the move on Regan Mitchell as a result, but it's not going to be all his way, because he has got Mitchell under or pressurising him once more. Got Clements right on the back of Florian Bauer. He's got double trouble because of course he's got that 15-second penalty for the collision with handover and a drive-through, so he's going to have to go 2 trips through pit lane, and one of them's going to be a slow trundle down, and the other one's going to have a 15-second time where he just can't do anything to the car. So double issues for him. But importantly for Ross McGregor, he's made the move, he's done what he needed to do, he's now got a 13-second gap, and it's going to be a case of watch those times. Can he start to close that gap and start to force the pressure on our current race and current championship leader?
That 13-second gap, though, is going to seem nearly impenetrable, considering the driver he's got to catch is Luca Burke, and we know how quick the Season 1 champion can be once the pressure is applied. I almost feel partly responsible for Burke's performance so far this evening. After telling him at the end of the Imola race that he hadn't won a feature event, he said, "That's my target, that's my goal." And tonight he's doing everything he needs to do to take home his first win in a feature race this season. It will be his third win of the season if he can do so. Into Brooklands though, Florian Bauer coming under pressure from John Clements and Al Buncombe as they run through the final complex here at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit as we dip under an hour, and Florian Bauer's going to dip to pit lane immediately, getting out of the competition there. He does have a drive-through penalty and he does have plus 15 seconds to serve, so which of the two will it be this time for Bauer as he trundles down the old pit lane here at Silverstone, which leads you round the inside of Woodcote and past the start-finish line, and you rejoin the track after Cop. So it's not one of the longest pit lanes on the calendar. It's certainly shorter than the likes of Spa and Imola, but still it's plenty of time spent going slowly. And David, a drive-through penalty is just frustrating time to lose, isn't it? Because it's typically down to your own eagerness of just pushing the track limits too far on one too many occasions.
Yeah, absolutely, and I doubt that'll be the last time we see a track limit drive-through penalty for track limits before this race is done, because you can see just how hard every single one of these drivers is pushing at the moment. I'm just looking, the timing tower hasn't yet fully updated. He has dropped down to 11th as it stands. He's dropped down to 12th as well as John Clements rather, under a bit of pressure from Al Buncombe in the 23 machine. He's making his way back up the grid rather nicely after that coming together between Ross McGregor. I'm sure he was quite pleased when Chris Crossman went deep into Village and he didn't have to make the move into the loop. He just got it done beforehand, so he didn't have to try once more. But yeah, it's an unfortunate one for Florian. He's dropped down to 12th now. He shakes back up, and he's all kind of sorted on the timing tower side as Al Buncombe looks to the inside of the loop. It's third. Is it going to be third time lucky? It is not. And Tim, he's trying that many times. It's just not paying off at the moment, is it?
I keep getting worried that the driver he's trying to pass hasn't seen him, and it's just going to be all end in tears as the number 23 kind of steamrollers into the side of another car. But for now, everyone seems to have escaped instant, as in the picture-in-picture, that's a battle for position. Bradley Brocky's going side by side with Thomas Lavoie. This is the fight for 15th. The E-Team Brit car on the outside is looking set to lose the position. And this has been some valiant racing from Thomas Lavoie in the number 20. Pitted at the end of the first lap of the race, and on pace alone, he's caught the back of the field and passed both of the E-Team Brit cars. But he's up to 15th now and will be looking to keep himself in contention once the pit stops play out. But if Bradley Brockies sees another opportunity to get past, I'm sure he won't say no. Here's the battle on screen as Clements gets all kind of crossed up in the transition towards the end of Magnus and Beckett's, and that's going to allow Al Buncombe to close right up as they head down the Hanger Straight and under the bridge and towards Stowe. They're over towards the right-hand side of the track. Clements drifting over to the left, and he closes the lane on the run into Stowe. They turn in to Stowe and holds on to the position for now, but Buncombe might try the move again into the loop. And David, Burke's lead, it's gone up. It's nearly 15 seconds, and that's all important tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. He's now got the ability to almost elect to do whatever he wants. I think, Ross McGregor, if I was in his shoes, I would be pitting at some point soon, at least before Luca does, and really give him the pressure and give him effectively get him to force his hand. Look, I've pitted, I've put whatever I need to do on. You need to now do the same. We'll see where we come out, because Ross has to win this race minimum, and Luca has to come into some sort of issues. But as it stands, that is simply just not happening.
So here they are on screen, side by side. Unfortunately, not side by side on track. These are the two pictures on your screen. Burke on the right, exiting Luffield and onto the start-finish straight. And on the left-hand side, Ross McGregor coming into Brooklands. That is the gap between our championship leader and race leader, and the driver second in the championship and second in tonight's finale event at Silverstone. 55 minutes and change to go. McGregor is going to have to start pushing on and pulling something out of the bag, because as it stands, he's not doing enough to stop Burke from taking a second consecutive title. Now Buncombe, though, in 6th place, is certainly looking to end his championship as well as he possibly can. He's had an up and down season, been involved in one too many events, I'm sure Al will care to admit, but he's on screen now, pushing on 6th place again, still stuck behind John Clements, who looks to have done enough to keep the Rocket Simsport driver at bay as they rumble through Maggots and Beckett's and out onto the Hanger Straight once again. Let's see, can Buncombe make the move this time? He's closing up in the slipstream. Clements drifts across the left-hand side of the track to take the optimum racing line, and Buncombe sends it to the inside. Can he get it stopped? He's going to park it on the apex to stop any kind of cutback from the number 88 Podium Sim Racing car. And head down through the Vale and into Club. And that is job done for Buncombe. He made it stick that time, didn't he, David?
Oh, that was a fantastic move from Al. You can see he's using all of his real-world experience in the car just then. He's just left it so late, shifted to the inside. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, stick it on the apex, job done, move on. Who's next? And that'd be pretty, you can't say any fairer than that. I'm just keeping an eye on Bastien Zenefels as well. He's actually been the first man, apart from Tom Lavoie, to make a pit stop. He has changed tyres, because he was in pit lane for 1 minute and 9 seconds as opposed to Lavoie's 43 seconds. So he's definitely changed rubber. So he's going to be interesting to see if he comes out. We'll keep an eye on the timing sheets between the number 64 and the number 20 driver. And I've just heard in my ear from the time, and I've seen on the timing charts as well, Tim, Jack Noller quicker than Ross McGregor on the last lap, and Ross McGregor 9/10 slower than Luca Burke. He's just not able to make any sort of dent in that number 87 car's lead at the moment.
Let's see then, as they're rounding the final few corners and onto the pit straight, the gap extending between McGregor and Burke. It's now 15.7 seconds. McGregor did respond, though, on that previous lap, finally down into the 2:09s. It seems like he's been unable to get into the 09s. He's been in the 10s for seemingly the entire race so far. His average lap time, a 2:10.3. in comparisons to Burke's 2:09.4, so nearly at 9/10 a lap for Burke, and it's certainly showing. A couple more pit callers. This is John Clements on screen. He stops in his box. He's pitting from what was that fight with Al Buncombe for 5th, so this will be another good marker to see where the number 88 car rejoins and how this might be a mirror image for other drivers once they head to pit lane. He is still stopped in pit lane, so it's quite a long time spent. And let's have a look, though, where Clements rejoins. Buncombe, though, also on the move, isn't he, David? At a 2:09 on that previous lap. He's looking to try and close what is a 5-second gap to Regan Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Third fastest man on track on the last lap, like you say, just into the 209s. He clearly does have the pace. He proved that in qualifying, sticking at third on the grid. So he's clearly quick enough to mix it with these guys. And so he was only a tenth behind Regan Mitchell as John Clements exits the pits. He was in the pit lane for 1 minute and 7 seconds. And I've just noticed in the background, he looks to have come out ahead of Thomas Lavoie. So he's managed to jump the man who did not change his tyres, whereas NFL's came out just behind him. So it's just something to keep an eye out for. Ross McGregor still not able to close that gap. What I really feel that Ross needs to do is just to start to get a few quicker laps under his belt and just sort of force Luca into some mistakes if he can. Because if he can do that, then that's potentially opening up the option of maybe Luca just pushing a little bit too hard and getting a track limit violation, which would obviously shift him further down. But at the moment, nothing coming, and Jack Noller seems to have made a mistake on the last lap because he's fallen a little bit back into the clutches of Regan Mitchell in the Simsport Solutions car behind.
It seems they're all closing up though in this fight for second place. Noller 1.7 back from McGregor, but as said, he is now harried by Regan Mitchell, who's now only a second behind the MSL Motorsport car number 36. Set at the moment, or he's running in a podium position, and it's been an up and down season, like we say, for Jack Noller on the podium in the first race at Barcelona, and then really the performances didn't seem to go the way he wanted. 6th place at Misano, 9th at Spa, 17th at Kyalami was really the low point of the season, but he returned with 5th at Paul Ricard. Podium was on the cards at Imola from starting second, and it looked like he could have challenged for the race victory, even leading off the line, but unfortunately a DNF following a number of instances. Darrell Upton, the leader of the Fast Forward Championship, is in pit lane. It'll be crucial to see where he comes out in relative position with his teammate John Clements and Thomas Lavoie. And Thomas Lavoie, obviously, both of those two fighting for that Fast Forward Championship, which is handed out to the driver who gains the most positions over the course of the race. Upton, 29 places gained over the last 6 races. Thomas Lavoie, 26. So it's very close in the fight for that respective championship, as we see Upton returning to the track, and he's a long way behind Thomas Lavoie, who has been on the pace this evening after pitting at the end of the first lap. But the driver of the number 20 EGT Motorsports car has got a headache on his hands, because that's Bastien Zenefels, who's going to the inside on the run up towards Stowe. Can the 64 car make it around 20? Yes, late on the brakes, gets the job done. So Lavoie drops back down into 14th. But crucially for him, he's ahead of Darrell Upton, and he's got a lot of time in hand. But we'll have to do some maths and just add up where they started and now where they are on the race order. With plenty more cars still to head to pit lane. We're nearly at the halfway mark, and it looks like 6 cars have pitted, 11 still to make their mandatory stop. One of those being Regan Mitchell in the number 69 Simsport Solutions car, who is, according to the timing screens, the fastest on that previous lap of this triplet, battling it out for the final 2 steps on the podium with 2:09.9 compared to the 2:10.2 of Noller and the 2:10.1 of Ross McGregor. So Mitchell, after dropping back from second, David, looks to be responding.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing all he needs to do. He's obviously running his own race. He's not got any sort of championship aspirations at this point, and he's doing what he needs to do. He's putting the laps in. He's close behind Jack Noller. Of course, he is going to have the ability to be a bit more flexible, change his tyres if he wants to against Jack, who's of course got that penalty applied against him for the collision between himself and Regan Mitchell from last week at Imola. So he's definitely got an odds-on chance of getting a podium in this final race, and I think it's what he deserves. Like you say, he was fantastic out at Imola last week, of course, right up at the sharp end for the majority of that, got that fantastic start and got himself into the lead until it all unravelled into Tamburello when he had a coming together with Luca Burke, and then of course, like I say, hit Regan Mitchell a couple of laps later. So he does deserve it. We know he's got the pace, and he showed it in bits last season and showed it at points this season. So I think a podium would be fair for him this one, but I think unfortunately with that penalty, it's not going to happen, unfortunately.
It's the problem, David, isn't it? We like a lot of these drivers. We like all of them and wish they could all finish on the podium, isn't it? That's the problem. If we just get a bigger podium, can Steve Hindon invest in a podium with more steps for all 17 drivers? That would be fantastic. We'll
Absolutely.
pass on the message to him, David, and we'll see if we can get that sorted for the next championship if one is managed to be cobbled together. But in front, Jack Noller heads to pit lane. So the driver in third place opts to make his pit stop. He's nearly split the race in perfect halves, 46.5 minutes to go in this one. So Noller, he's got that 15-second penalty, and as well, I've just noticed Luca Burke is in pit lane. So our championship leader and race leader is stopped in his pit box. There he is, Noller just going past. So two drivers with 15-second penalties to their names opting to head to pit lane at the halfway point. And now, David, this is the important few laps for Ross McGregor. He needs to get the hammer down and eat into that 15-second advantage whilst he's got clean air.
Absolutely, it's hammer time for Ross McGregor, isn't it? Luca Burke's still in pit lane, so he's obviously serving that time, but it looks like he's now ticking over the 70-second mark. In fact, he's just left his pit box. If I'm understanding that correctly, that looks like he may well have changed tyres as well. Unfortunately, it's not easy to tell, but if we're looking at a 30-second time standby for tyres, he's about 12-13 seconds slower in the pit stop phase than anyone else has been so far that has changed tyres. So potentially he's got a fresh set of rubber on, but like you say, Ross McGregor, clean air in front of him as he goes sliding through that fast right left-hander, and he's got to put the hammer down. Really got to push now, get as much time out as possible, see if he can extend it potentially, see if he can keep as much on as possible, and just basically just see where he comes out in a few laps' time. He's really got nothing to lose at this stage.
Chris Crossman as well, pitting on that previous lap, the number 3 BD Racing machine, down into 11th place on the road, but with a number of drivers still to complete their mandatory pit stop. We will see how the race pans out. But Ross McGregor on screen, as David says, it really is hammer time now for Ross. He's got a sizable disadvantage to overturn, not only in the championship, but in terms of time on track in the race this evening. And indeed, McGregor has come to pit lane according to my timing screens. I'm sure that might update on the timing tower in a couple of seconds. There it is. So McGregor in pit lane. He doesn't take too long to respond to Burke, and we'll go side by side on your screen. Burke on the left, out on track on his out lap with a pit stop of 1 minute 20 seconds. McGregor on the right hand side of your screen stops in his pit box. And David, McGregor's got to roll the dice surely and go without taking tyres, or is that a risk far too great to deal with?
Well, I wonder if he's been using Thomas Lavoie as almost a bit of a yardstick as a comparison. You see how Bunkum's coming behind him as well, but Thomas Lavoie is the only man so far who's actually not changed tyres. And looking at the time Ross has been in the pits lane, he's been 50 seconds now. I think he's putting a fresh set of rubber on, and as you see one of the eSport design cars come in as well. I think that's Florian Bauer, who's coming to pit lane as Ross just exit pit box, and Luca Burke comes round the outside. It's going to be close, but Luca's going to retain the lead regain the lead of the race eventually when everyone else pits. But Ross McGregor is closer than he was before, so it's still potential for an upset on the cards before the end of the race this evening.
Pit stop time of 1 minute and 7 seconds. The difference between the two of them almost spot on, with the penalty handed to Luca Burke as a result of the lap 1 incident at Imola. But the gap is reduced now, and McGregor can see his rival in his windscreen as he powers down the Hangar Straight. That white and day-glow yellow car in front is the car he needs to beat, running through Stowe. And for his first time on this out lap, we need to get the tyres up to temperature. He'll need to adjust his driving to the new set of rubber. And he'll need to get that car pointing in the right direction and fast, really, because Burke is going to be speeding off if he can continue his pace that he's shown the entirety of the race up to this point. So let's run you through the order then. We've got 42 minutes to go, so we're just over halfway. Bear in mind that the top 5 drivers still need to head to pit lane. It's Regan Mitchell in the 69 Simsport Solutions car who tops the standings for now, with Daniel Handover in the number 43 Zanstro Simsport car just heading to pit lane. Then it's Steve Hinden in third for eSport Designs, with David Belanger up to fourth in the 222 EGT Motorsports machine. Then Pierre-Olivier Cloutier, his teammate behind, in the number 39 in fifth place. Then it's the first of our pit stoppers, and it's the championship leader Luca Burke, who's up to sixth, with Ross McGregor, his championship contender, 5.1 seconds behind in seventh. Then it's Clements, Crossman and Buncombe, who's on screen at the moment, rounding out your top 10. All those drivers have pitted, with Zenefels for close company once again. Then it's Jack Noller behind, the MSL Motorsports driver, dropping down the order as a result of his 15-second penalty carried into this race from the incident with Regan Mitchell at Imola. Then it's Tom Lavoie, Darrell Upton and Florian Bauer rounding out your top 15. Those are your points paying positions, with Max Spooner leading the E-Team Brit cars. He's in 16th ahead of teammate Bradley Brockies, but they're close together. There's 1 second between them. There's bragging rights for sure between the two teammates in the final round of the season. And at the moment in the Fast Forward Championship, with Lavoie having started 12th and he's in 13th, he's not adding to his point score, so he will not be succeeding in passing Darrell Upton for the lead in that championship. And with Upton up to 14th from 15th on the grid, he is now on a total of 30 points. So Upton solidifying his lead at the top of that championship. Solidifying his lead at the top of the overall championship, though, Luca Burke leading Ross McGregor, and that's exactly what he needs to do to take his second consecutive eSport Designs Cayman Supercup championship. As Jack Noller goes to the outside of Bastian Zenefels into club, he's going to have to hold it around the left-hander before it becomes the inside into the right, and that was move done for Noller, very cleanly executed. He's fighting to overturn the deficit that he lost as a result of that 15-second penalty, and he's closing up towards Al Buncombe immediately as well. So strong showing from the driver of the number 36. And David, we wanted a fight going into the second half of the race. That gap is reduced between Burke and McGregor, but immediately Burke seems to be responding. McGregor unable to answer the question.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen the I can't see on pit wall that the timing's updated for Ross just yet, but on the last lap Luca Burke put in a 2:09.2, which is not too far off the fastest lap, which I believe has been set by himself as well, which is 2:08.7. So still time for it to all change, but yeah, it does look to still be, at least one set has gone to Luca Burke, because he then puts in a 2:08.7. So he's clearly heard me. That's a purple lap for him, as Ross McGregor puts in a 2:09.4. So anything Ross tries to do, Luca just goes, right, hold on a second, I see what you've done there, I will just go and do a little bit better. Which is exactly what he's done there. As you can see, Max Spooner has pitted for the second time, I believe that is, because he did have that pit stop made before, so maybe that's a terminal issue for the E-Team Brit car, which is a bit of a shame to see. And at the moment, Regan Mitchell sitting at the top. He's got a 49 second gap to Luca Burke. So if he was to not change tyres, that would give him the chance to come out in front of the number 87 machine. However, it would put him very, very susceptible to losing the lead of that race. So I would imagine he might do a Paul Ricard situation, run as long as he can, splash and dash at the end, and see if he can pick up a podium towards the end of this race.
Burke down into the 2 minute 8 seconds for the first time this race, a 2:08.778, the fastest lap of this eSport Designs Cayman Supercup finale. He is absolutely flying at the helm of the number 87 Rocket Simsport Cayman, and he's looking in fine form once again. McGregor is going to need to respond, and that timer is ticking down now, and it seems to be shifting towards the final few moments of the race. I say that, 37.5 minutes to go. Anything could happen, and it normally does. McGregor, though, dropping back through the middle sector, losing half a second to his championship rival. On screen, this is a fun battle here. This is two EGT Motorsports cars going at it for what is third place on the road, but both of them still needing to pit. This is what we like to see, David. A bit of bragging rights being exchanged in the final race of the season. Belanger versus Cloutier.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely, Tim. The first man you want to be out on track is your teammate, and Belanger has done that to a fairly comfortable point up until this rate. However, like you say, Clotet is not far off the back at all. Both of them still got to make a pit stop, so there's definitely going to be some bragging rights. I wonder whether one of them will elect to not change tyres. I'm sure they'll be speaking to each other throughout the race. Of course, Thomas Lavoie a little bit further down. He made that early pit stop and has not really made as much of an indent as he might have hoped. I wonder if the worn tyres are now starting to pay effect to him. But yeah, it's always nice to see these guys out on track. I know that Clotet has not exactly had the cleanest of seasons. Unfortunately for him, he's been caught up in a few incidents here and there, but I'm sure he'll be relishing the chance to get a good old chance to battle against his teammate. And like you say, he'll be one of those bragging rights come the end of this race.
So as they head down into club, Belanger holds on to third place for now. Has Crossman still locked in battle with Daniel Handover. These two cars seem to have not been separated for the entirety of the race up to this point. The number 3 car, the sole BD Racing machine, out on track tonight. A shame not to have Kev Critchley racing in the final round of the season, but I think Kev's been a really important addition to the championship, hasn't he, David? He showed how strong he was at the opening round of the season. Unfortunately, he missed out on Spa, and there was that incident at Mazzano in the first corner. But really, Kev has been a spectacular racer, and that Kailami win was spellbinding, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. He was so consistent, wasn't he, as his teammates currently under a bit of pressure from Dan Handover as they go in towards Village and into the loop for what is going to be the 26th time in this race. But yeah, he's just unfortunately, like I say, missed out on the race at Spa, like I say, caught up with Jack McIntyre at Mazzano, and obviously the straw that broke the championship camel's back last week at Imola, getting nudged off in the first couple of laps. It's a real shame because he was so quick, and like you say, that Kailami race really proved testament to him, because he wasn't only quick, but he was consistently quick as well, and any time anyone started to close up to him, he just kind of put his foot down again and went for it. So it's a real shame to not see him tonight. It's good to see that Chris is still racing as well, and he's had a very good race so far, and he's been caught up in quite a bit of action, which I'm sure is good for him to see. It's been clean as well. But yeah, I think it's maybe just a case of what could have been for Kev at this stage.
So, Crossman fighting hard here with Daniel Handover as they head into Cops. We're looking back from the number 3 BD Racing machine at that blue and silver Zancho Simsport car, who looks to the outside on the run into Maggots and Beckett's. And from this helicopter cam, we get a fantastic view of this sweeping sequence of corners and how they cut back on their lines, attempting to get a superior exit. It looks like Handover's got a better run at the end of the corner, and in front, John Clements looked to be kicking up the dust and potentially making a mistake through the opening sequence of corners. Crossman holds on to the position for now. So you look back from the rear wing of his car, we can see in the distance as well, that's Al Buncombe closing in as Crossman goes defensive into club. Handover's going to try and cut back through the left and the right and get a nice run onto the Hamilton straight. It looks like Crossman has once again done enough. And really, David, we've seen this all season, haven't we? Equal machinery. It's about trying to do something different to force that move, and sometimes just running as close as you can to the car in front and forcing them into an error has been the best way to make a pass.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim, and it really shows the racecraft that these guys have got behind them, or in some occasions, unfortunately, the lack of, because we have seen some people struggle to get past, or we've seen some instances, but that doesn't matter at the moment, because like I say, we've got some fantastic racing so far this evening. Dan, I wonder if he's just sizing him up at the moment. He's been behind him for a few laps. However, he is, like you say, he's probably just sizing up a move. I think he may have the pace on the BD Racing machine at the moment, but he just needs to try and find out where Chris is a little bit slower than him, so if he can get a better exit than him. And like I say, just try a couple of different lines and just maybe shift the nose of that Zancho Simsport car up the inside once every now and again, just to offsettle Chris and see if he can force him into a mistake.
As they round Luffield then and towards the start-finish stretch. Hearing as well that Regan Mitchell, race leader, is losing time at the moment as well. So that's not going to help his attempts to hold on to the race lead post pit stop. He is, I believe, battling potentially a back mark, although it looks like he's out on track on his own, heading into the loop, the arena section. So we'll have to see how the times play out as Mitchell pushes on, trying to make an alternate strategy work. And we have seen the different strategies work across these feature races this season. As Daniel Handover looks to the outside of Chris Crossman into Stowe. Can he get it job done? Almost around the outside, but just gets a big slide on the exit. Manages to hold it together. Lives to fight another day, but Crossman still holds on to P8, and Handover looks to be getting more and more desperate to make the pass, trying different moves on different parts of the track. But Crossman holding strong and making the rear end of the number 3 Cayman as wide as he possibly can as they run through Abbey and through Farm into the hairpin right at Village into the arena section. And they're both closing up on John Clements and the number 88 Podium Sim Racing machine. The gap down below a second now. So 2 is going to become 3 very shortly. Wouldn't be surprised to see Al Buncombe closing the gap. Yes, he's now only 1.5 seconds off the back of the number 43 machine. As Ross McGregor now slips 7 seconds behind Luca Burke. So it looks like Ross has no answer for Luca's pace tonight at Silverstone. Heading into the final half an hour of this championship season, things look to be going Burke's way as they round Crossman. Comes out of Luffield very cleanly again with Handover for close company. So 4 cars still yet to pit. That's Mitchell, Hinden, Belanger and Cloutier are still yet to head to pit lane. And the race seems to have settled down. We've just been reminded by the stewards that they are still active. They haven't gone off for dinner just yet, David. But it's good to see that everything is calming down and no real incident at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I think it would be rude not to pay attention to the fact there's been some incidents in races past, and I know that some people have had some unfortunate comes together with others, but yeah, it's good. Everyone's been really clean so far. Obviously, we've seen a couple of incidents, but I don't really think we've seen anything too naughty, shall we say, at any stage so far. One thing I'm keeping a keen eye on is, and I know you mentioned a little earlier that Regan Mitchell is probably outside, or probably not enough of a gap ahead of Jack Noller to really make a tyre change work and come out ahead of the MSL Motorsport car. So really for me it's just a case of, is he now going to try and just run long as he did at Paul Ricard as Luca Burke goes up the inside of Cloutier? That was a nice easy move. It was almost as if Pierre didn't really hold him up too much, knowing the speed differential between the two at this stage in the race, and that gets the Rocket Simsport car up onto a podium position. But yeah, if Regan Mitchell doesn't elect to pit, as it stands, he would come out in 5th. So he'd come out between Cloutier and McGregor. To come out in 6th, sorry. And if he was to pit and change tyres, he would come out, like I say, if not slightly before, just around Jack Noller. So it seems to me the strategy for Mitchell's region is going to be, go as long as you can, don't change tyres, and that should give him that final step on the podium, assuming he doesn't lose too much time over the next 28 minutes.
It's all about, he's almost gone so far now into the race, he's got to do that, hasn't he? He's locked into going for the extreme alternate strategy as David Belanger drops out of 5th place into pit lane. He's going to tumble down the order. Be interesting to see where he emerges compared to teammate Thomas Lavoie, who pitted on the opening lap of the race and is now up to 13th place as we ride on board in the splitter of Chris Crossman's number 3 BD Racing Cayman. Round Cops, he opts to stay off the curb and then runs through Maggots and Beckett's. Just look how much curb they take on the left and the right. Skipping across the grass almost is the number 3 machine, getting a bit of a wiggle on through the transition, and again all over the curb on the inside, and again through the left-hander at Chapel before thundering down this hanger straight under the bridge. It's a slight rise, slight elevation, and then it climbs again into Stowe. Not quite a scratch on Eau Rouge at Spa, but it is a noticeable ascent into the right-hander when you then drop down into this complex, which does round out the Grand Prix lap but it's about halfway around the lap here in this particular layout where we use the old pit lane, the pre-2011 pit lane between Luffield, Woodcote and Copse. And as Crossman now kicks on, he's definitely closed the gap to Clements now. It's at 0.8 of a second. He's bringing Handover with him, but all the while Al Buncombe is closing now 1.1 seconds off the back of Daniel Handover, as Crossman, I thought he was going very deep there into the right-hander at Village. In fact, he had gone slightly wide. That's cost him time in the exchange between the right and left, and allowed Handover to have a look at making a move as Regan Mitchell has come to pit lane. So we'll see where our race leader emerges after making his mandatory stop. Crossman to the right-hand side of the track though. Handover looking to the inside as if to distract the number 43, but he can't, to distract the number 3 car, but can't get the move. But he sends it on the inside into Luffield, trying to use Clements as a bit of a pick, I believe. And as they get through round the right-hander that completes the lap, Daniel Handover, position gained, but rather forcefully, David. But I don't think there was any instant there, just hard racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Elbows out from Handover there. It did look like he'd probably just gone, I've waited long enough now. I'm going to make this move and I'm going to get past you. And I'm just noticing as well, Regan Mitchell has come out. He's not taken tyres. He's done a 47-second stop, but he's actually come out a few seconds ahead of Luca. But you can see the timing towers reset. He's got 3.5 seconds as they go into Magnussen Beckett's Handover, side by side with Clements, trying to make 2 moves in the space of a lap as Crossman comes back on the back as well. Buncombe's joined the party even more so than he had already, and it's all starting to come to blows at the moment. And as it stands, Steve Hinden's now pitted. Pierre-Olivier Clotet is the only man not to, but Chris Crossman trying to get the move down the hanger straight as they go into Stowe, shaped to the inside. He's all over those marbles. That's going to make that braking zone really difficult for him, and as a result just has to sit in behind. And Al Buncombe very close on the back as well, and I would imagine, Tim, this may come to tears if they're not too careful, but hopefully we'll continue to see what we're seeing so far.
So very close racing indeed. Buncombe's got a far superior run through the club sequence. He's trying to get past Crossman but couldn't. Found the number 3 BD Racing machine in the way as he ran through the double right-hander and onto the Hamilton straight. Just seen that one of the E-Team Brit cars headed to pit lane with a stop-go 30-second penalty. I think that's Max Spooner, who's now dropped out of the race. A shame to see in the final event the E-Team Brit machine not making it to the checkered flag, as Crossman under fire from Buncombe, who seems to have made that move that he's been trying all race on other drivers, makes it stick, but Crossman's got the cutback and fights back immediately into entry. Buncombe wide over the right hand side, 2 wheels in the grass as they head down the Wellington straight and towards Brooklands. It is Crossman on the inside, Buncombe on the outside, which will become the inside for Luffield if he can hold it out round the long left hander. He does, so now it's all change. It's Buncombe on the inside and Crossman to the outside. You could get the slingshot around the long right hander at Luffield. They are still side by side, and once again it's the black and gold MSL Motorsport car of Jack Noller who's looking to benefit from battles in front. They're side by side into Copse, Buncombe on the inside, and that's move done. He's now up to 7th place. And Noller, who runs very wide on the exit of Copse, is trying to make his way past Crossman with immediate effect as they head into Maggots and Beckett. Has to file into line. And David, that's what we love about Silverstone, isn't it? The corners that switch back one way then the other, but there's plenty of space to go side by side and plenty of racing to be had.
Yeah, 100%, Tim. That was a really well worked move from Howie. Like I say, he got the move done into the loop, which he's been trying all race long so far. Managed to make it work, and then just held on to it through Brooklands and got them inside into Luffield. So really nicely worked move. He set that up. It was almost like watching a game of chess. He clearly knew what he was going to do. Got it sorted a couple of corners earlier, and then just used the way the track continues to develop into that little arena section towards the back end of the lap, just to make that move and continue it as Chris Crossman coming under fire from Jack Noller. Again, how many times have we seen Jack Noller just appear on the scene at any point in the last hour or so, in the last hour of this race? And amazingly, all of these 5 cars are split by a camera angle at the moment, so it's about 4 seconds on track, but it's very, very close indeed as Handover tries to go to the inside of Clements. Doesn't manage to make the move stick as it stands. As at the top of the timing charts, Luca Burke just started to claw back in on Regan Mitchell, which is understandable given the race leader at the moment hasn't actually changed his tyres.
So with 22 minutes to go, Mitchell's going to have his work cut out to keep the number 87 car behind. The gap now 1.1 seconds. As handover is all over the back of John Clements into Brooklands. And here is that battle. Here's handover looking to the inside, then into Luffield, just trying to force open a bit of space to put that number 43 Zansho Simsport car. And on the exit of the long right-hander that rounds out the lap, and onto Woodcote and through across the start-finish line. Handover now 4 tenths behind. But that's a numerical value that doesn't really count for much because the gap is changing with a couple of car lengths, it seems, every couple of turns. As handover is well within slipstream range as well of the number 88. This here on screen is our battle for the race lead. There's no pit stops to be had here, but different strategy calls have seen this battle go on into the final 21 minutes of this race. Regan Mitchell leads the way, time gained by not taking tyres, and unfortunately that strategy call looks to now cost him time as Burke closes up on fresh rubber, getting far superior exit out of club and along the Hamilton straight into Abbey. The number 87 car, I feel, David, it's a matter of when, not if, Burke makes that move for the lead, and he's looking to the inside into the arena section, but Mitchell fights on valiantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's a case of when rather than if, and I think it's going to happen over the next few corners. Lucas is going to get a better exit courtesy of those fresher tyres. He's all over the back of the Simsport Solutions Noir car at the moment. He's going to make the move into Brooklands, you would imagine, as they go down the Wellington Straight. He's almost alongside. I think he's got the overlap as they go into the braking zone, and there you go, up the inside. And Regan Mitchell, almost to an extent, just looks to concede the position and just carries on fighting for another day. The good thing for him is he's got an 8.5 second gap back to Ross McGregor, who's then got a 17 second gap back to John Clements. So you would expect, with 20 minutes left of this race, that Regan Mitchell is odds on for that final podium position.
So one driver still yet to head to pit lane in the form of Pierre-Olivier Cloutier, as we see handover looking to the inside of John Clements into Brooklands. Can't get the move done though. Once again, that number 88 car able to hold on for now. This is a battle for 5th place on the road, but like we say, it is net 4th place as a result of Pierre-Olivier Cloutier yet to make his mandatory visit to pit lane. His handover is looking to the inside, filling the mirrors of that number 88 Podium Sim Racing car, hoping to just distract John and just irk him off his line slightly as they run into Maggots and Beckett's for the 33rd time of asking, as it looks like Burke has actually got past Mitchell now for the race lead. 87 leading the way, now opening the gap to 8 tenths of a second. And handover fighting though very hard indeed to get this P5 on the road as he goes up in towards Stowe. Can't get the move done to the inside, but again just showing his nose up into Stowe. They are almost side by side on the exit of the right-hander, down the hill through the Vale into Club. Clements defends to the inside, and handover is trying to get the run through the middle of the corner and do that sequence of the exchange between left and right, but can't carry the momentum. He finds his charge halted by the rear end of the number 88, but he's looking to the inside into Abbey. Again, can't get it done. And all the while, David, Al Buncombe closing right in. It's now 3 fighting out for P5.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, potentially, if they can keep it clean, there's always the chance they can get on the back of Regan Mitchell. But at the moment, that's just not going to happen because they're just not playing ball. They're not really working together. Look how close they are going through the loop. I know they concertina up as they go into those slower corners, but that is really, really close between the two of them. You can see the picture-in-picture shows them now. We can see Jack Noller behind Chris Crossman as they come onto the Wellington Straight. He's nice and close, but yeah, these battles are starting to form. Everyone's starting to close back up together now. We're seeing these mini battle packs form. And yeah, again, we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it just shows how competitive these drivers are, because it doesn't matter whether there's a championship on the line, whether it's for 7th, 8th, even 15th or 16th position. These guys go hammer and tongs and really go all out to try and get as many positions as possible, and it makes for brilliant broadcasting from our perspective.
And meanwhile, Luca Burke, after making that move on Regan Mitchell into Brooklands, is kicking on and proving the point. He's now 1.5 seconds ahead of the number 69 Simsport Solutions car. So with 17 minutes to go, the champion elect, is still giving it absolutely everything to secure his second title. As on screen, this battle rages on. Handover giving it everything as they run out through Chapel. He's got a much better run than John Clements this time. They are side by side much earlier on in the straight. There's a lapped car there. That's Bradley Brockey's pulling over to the side. Nearly used him as a pick. Ala Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher. There's contact side by side on the run into Stowe. Handover bumped out wide and Buncombe's up through into the position as now he's looking to the outside of Clements into Club. Has he got the job done? Buncombe's late on the brakes. He's 4 wheels off the track. Nearly contact as Clements comes around. There is a slight tap. He holds on to it. And lo and behold, the driver who gets back through, Daniel Handover, reclaims 5th place on the road. Now Buncombe's got a good run on the exit of Club. Down the straight in towards Abbey. Clements doesn't know which side to go. They're nearly 3 wide into the fast right-hander. Clements sliding through up towards the inside of Handover. Has he got the overlap on the run in towards the village? Yes, they're side by side, but Handover goes incredibly late on the brakes, clips the curb on the inside for good measure and holds on to 6th. But unfortunately for Daniel, all that hard work has seemed to ended in nothing because there's now Al Buncombe in 5th, Handover 6th, Clements 7th.
Would you believe it? Thinking to yourself, I made the move, and I've gone wide, I've got the move now, I've got both of them back, I'm back into 5th, and then Al Buncombe just comes in, just gets in the way and makes the move and job done. As you just see Jack Noller looking up the inside of John Clements into Brooklands, he's made the move on Chris Crossman. This quintet is as close as they've ever been, which is exactly what you like to see, and there is no quarter given. The racing is as fair as you like. I also quite like the little nudge from Al Buncombe, but he just managed to maybe it's like when you make a dodgy tackle in football, isn't he? He's just kind of nudged Clements back to face the right way and just put his hand up towards the steward to say, sorry sir, that won't happen again. And he's made the move stick. But the good thing is, I'm sure the stewards will look at that one and they'll just move on, because it is a racing incident. It was a nice and close quarter battle. And it's all gone trumps for Al Buncombe as he's made his way up a few more positions and just carries on what has been a very admirable display of overtaking, and he's done a fantastic job to get himself back up the grid after that incident coming together with Ross McGregor at the early stages of this race.
It's almost got that last day of school feeling to it, isn't it, David, where just anything goes and they're absolutely having a world of a blast of a time out there. As Buncombe now up to 5th place, which should become P4 once Pierre-Olivier Cloutier finally makes his mandatory stop. 14 minutes to go. The number 39 car yet to head to pit lane. So it still is Luca Burke that leads the way as we head into those final 14 minutes of this season of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Burke leads the way by 3 seconds from Regan Mitchell, the number 69 Simsport Solutions car, who didn't take tyres at the pit stop, but his pace is looking strong. He's holding in the 210s, the low 210s, on tyres that have done the entire race up to this point. He has an advantage of 6.5 seconds over Ross McGregor. There's a further 6.1 seconds back to Pierre-Olivier Cloutier, like we say, last driver yet to head to pit lane. And then it's this battle pack of Al Buncombe, Daniel Handover, John Clements and Jack Noller fighting out for 5th down to 8th. And I've just noticed that Chris Crossman is still hanging on in 9th as well. So there's a proper battle pack going on here, fighting for the positions in the second half of the top 10. Then there's 9.8 seconds back to Bastien Zenefels for Podium Sim Racing. Thomas Lavoie holds on to 11th for now after making a very alternate strategy work. Florian Bauer in 12th ahead of Darrell Upton on your screen at the moment, who's going at it hammer and tongs with David Belanger in the 222 EGT Motorsports car. They're going side by side into the arena section. Darrell holds on to 13th place for now and holds on to his lead in the Fast Forward Championship, which he'll be very pleased to win, with 2 tickets to the British Grand Prix up for grabs. Here is that battle though for 5th. It's carrying on, and David, I feel like we're going to keep cutting back to this because this battle is going to go right down to the wire, and I feel like there might be a few more bumps and scrapes to be added to these Cayman liveries before the checkered flag.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Hinden's not going to want to watch this one back because all of his beautiful liveries are going to be torn to shreds along the sides. There's going to be marks all the way up and down as handover looks to the outside of Buncombe going into Stowe. Noller's managed to make his way past Clements, and Crossman sat behind him as well. So it's all been changing in the groups behind. I've actually just seen in the server on the Discord for the eSport Design server as well. The reason why Max Spooner left the race because he got an off track, and then he somehow managed to flip his car into what looked to be Village. So I wonder if we can get a replay. I have been advised it's lap 25 if broadcaster Steve Proudley wants to try and find that, because that'd be quite interesting to see back, I'm sure. If not, we'll have to catch it another time. But yeah, going back to this battle, like you say, Tim, it's surely not going to end in the positions they're in at the moment. It just hasn't got the makings of that kind of end to this race, is it?
Props to the virtual marshals here at Silverstone to clear an upside down Cayman without having to go safety car full course yellow. It's impressive stuff from the men and women in orange around the track. That's really spectacular, allowing the racing to continue. Jack Noller on screen. He's under fire from John Clements, who's almost tapping the rear of the number 36 car as they run through Brooklands. Both of them hanging out a bit through the long left-hander and into the 180-degree right at Luffield to round out the lap. Noller holds on to 7th place for now, with Clements, though, eager to make a move. Chris Crossman waiting in the wings should the fireworks well and truly be set off. Steve Hinden picks up a drive-through penalty for what looks like track limits abuse. He won't want to... another reason not to watch this race back for poor old Steve. He looks like his race is going to be decided by that. He could hold on to 15th, although this looks like the moment then for Max Spooner, who drops it on the run-through Village and then over the curb and airborne and up and over goes the E-Team Brit Cayman and slams into the barrier. That was certainly gymnastics, shall we say.
Wow. I was just thinking to myself, I've got to figure out how he's managed to flip the car there. And then, like you say, he's just hit that enormous sausage curb on the inside of Village, and that's just thrown him into the wall. And like you say, fantastic work from the virtual marshals to get that out of the way as quickly as they have done. So quickly, in fact, we didn't even see it happen in the first place. So, yeah, unfortunate for Max to end the race like that, but he'll be pleased to know that as it stands, his teammate Bradley Brockes is getting another point for the team. So, although it'll be a slightly, should we say, a hollow victory for Max, but I'm sure he'll be pleased with it all nonetheless.
As I look across into the broadcast booth where Steve Proudley is housed, he's lifting up a number 10 on a board to give his score for Max Spooner's effort. Very impressed by the execution indeed, but didn't quite stick the landing, but a 10 nonetheless. Ross McGregor, yes, Steve Proudley saying it does take some skill to flip one of these cars like that. So very impressive stuff from Max. As Ross McGregor, though, it's been far from a perfect score tonight. 3rd place at the moment on the road, and that gap to Regan Mitchell is not really coming down. Mitchell doing enough to hold on to 2nd place. For now, it is really only a couple of tenths on the road each lap. McGregor's going to have to push on. We just saw him have a big slide around Copse as well, so he's clearly trying. 4.2 seconds to be lumped away at in this remaining 8.5 minutes. Mitchell's looking strong, David.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at Ross on the last lap, he was 9/10 of a second quicker than Regan Mitchell, so he's clearly closing the gap. But like you say, he just doesn't seem to be closing it enough. He's gone back down to 4 seconds on the nose, pretty much. As you can see, John Clements in the number 88 machine has a drive-through penalty as Ross goes very wide there. That's not going to do his track limit warnings any favours whatsoever. Steve Hinden dropping into the chat is in the eSport Designs alias, suggesting that he should have practiced before this race. I know he's been preparing for the 24 Hours of Suzuka in a couple of weeks, so clearly put a bit too much time into that as opposed to here. But unfortunate for John, because he was right in the thick of that battle, and he's going to have to drop out of it now, which is a real shame, because we would have liked to have seen how that's finished up. And I think probably need to mention to the EGT team that Pierre-Olivier Clotet does still need to do a pit stop in this race because there's 7 minutes left. Still not made it, but that is an admirable effort to have gone that long on the same set of tyres.
someone run down to the pit wall and check with his race engineers that he knows he needs to come to pit lane. But in Steve Hindon stopping, it has elevated Bradley Brockies to 15th, and the E-Team Brit driver will be scoring his first point of the season should he make it the final 7 minutes to the checkered flag, and that will see both Max and Bradley end out the season with 1 point to their name, which is excellent to see. As on screen is John Clements in the podium sim racing number 88 car, fortunately with that drive-through penalty to his name, which is going to bring what has been the battle of the race to an early end, as he will have to head to pit lane shortly, and that should release Chris Crossman as they slide their way into Brooklands. But whether or not Chris can close what is a 2.2 second gap up to Jack Noller, with really best part of 3 or 4 laps to go, is going to be left unanswered, I feel. Clements heads to pit lane then to serve the drive-through penalty with immediate effect. And on screen here, we can see the difference between Regan Mitchell and Ross McGregor. It's now down to 3.4 seconds. McGregor a 209.8 on that previous lap compared to Mitchell's 210.6. But Mitchell's pace, David, has been impressive. He's been consistently in the 210s, considering those tyres are well over 70 minutes old.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's one man who knows how to manage his tyres, it's Regan Mitchell, isn't it? He's done a fantastic job. He did the same thing at Paul Ricard and got a very good result there as well. And he's just done exactly the same. And if anything, on a track that in my very, very limited opinion, is probably a bit harder on tyres than the other one was. So he's done a fantastic job. And like you say, he is keeping Ross McGregor at bay. And I think with 5 minutes left, I think that second position looks to be all, I wouldn't say all but wrapped up, but he looks like he's on track to get it. So fantastic work from him. And it's going to be close coming towards the last couple of minutes, of course, because Ross McGregor 8/10 quicker on the last lap. But if Regan can keep doing what he's doing, he's sitting quite comfortably in the 210s at the moment. If he keeps doing that, then he's still definitely got a chance at that second step of the podium, which would be nothing short of a fantastic race and Simsport Solutions driver.
So as he hammers down towards Brooklands, and we cut back here to Daniel Handover, who's looking to fight back and reclaim that 5th place on the road that he seems to have spent the entirety of the last 85 minutes trying to gain. The number 43 car now stuck behind the 23 of Al Buncombe in the slipstream down the Wellington Straight, and towards Brooklands they go. Handover in the slipstream, but unable to make an impact on this particular lap, running slightly deep through the left-hander. Buncombe clipping the grass on the entry to the 180-degree right at Luffield, as finally, David, the bingo card is complete. Pierre-Olivier Cloutier heads to pit lane, and I wonder where the number 39 car will emerge on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a quick stop, isn't it? It's only going to be probably just under 50 seconds, you'd expect. I think 45 is roughly the deficit when you don't take tyres around here. So keep a keen eye on where he's going to come out. I'm just trying to have a quick look as I talk, so I'm vamping at the moment to try and see if we can get through. I think he'll come out between Florian Bauer and David Belanger in 12th and 13th. That is my rough feeling anyway, but lo and behold, I'm sure he'll come out in 14th, and I'll have egg on my face. As just see that, annoyingly, Curse the commentator I've just talked about, he's got a stop and go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So unfortunate for him, all of that hard work going as far into the race as he did, undone by maybe being a little bit too late on the brakes going into the pit lane, which is a real shame. And that probably is going to put him right the way down to the bottom of those point paying positions.
Indeed, as his battle for now 4th place continues to rage on. 3 minutes to go, and with Burke exiting Aintree at the moment, it looks like we could be getting 2 more laps of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Here is Burke on the run down into Brooklands. That car showing it's got some dirt up the side, but there hasn't been a mark on his performance tonight at all. Running through Luffield and on to the start-finish straight. Really has been a man on a mission, and David, I suppose it's even more impressive considering he didn't score any points at the opening round of the season, and for that with that disconnect he doesn't even pick up the 7 points completion bonus that is awarded to drivers who finish all of the races, and still he's going to be champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I think you said, I can't remember whether it was if he wins this one, it's 3 out of 6, or whether it's 4 out of 6 if he wins this one. And he's done exactly what he's needed to do in this race, hasn't he? He got out in front, he kept it clean in the first couple of laps, he built a gap, he had an enormous gap at the pit stop phase when he did come in, which negated all of that 15-second penalty. I'm very interested to see if you'll bring that up with him at the end of this race in the interview you'll have with him, to see what he thinks of that. But he's managed it to perfection. Like you say, to win a championship and not take part in one of the rounds is just proof in the pudding as to how quick this man is, and at the end of it is proven to be a very deserved champion, and will retain his crown at the end of season 2, it seems.
Regan Mitchell, though, on for what we think could be one of the drives of the season, because he's holding on to second place for now, and he's got 1 minute 20 seconds left on the clock and another lap. Well, it's about a lap and a half, isn't it, of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit to make, and we could see him take a surprise podium finish. Heading through Abbey, bit of a slide there for the 69, but he holds it. The tyres definitely starting to show their signs of wear. They will be into, well, I think it's about as far as you could possibly dare take a set of these tyres, isn't it, David? They're really going to start crying underneath you, especially at Silverstone.
Oh, absolutely, Tim. And I'm just actually having a look back. I've just gone into pit wall. I've just checked the timings and just see what he's done. And there's only there's a deficit of 0.9 of a second between all of his, what we've done, 10 laps since he's come out of the pit lane. But the last 3 or 4 laps have all been so consistent. Like, if you look back from lap 35 down to lap 40, 0.3 of a second between the fastest and the slowest of those laps, and that's just a testament to how good and consistent he has been, not just in this race but in this championship. And like you say, he's done a fantastic job, and if anything, I would suggest he actually deserves to keep that second place as Luca Burke, our race and championship leader, looks to have just started the final lap of the race.
So with the clock hitting 0, it's seconds out here in the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup for Season 2. Burke has one more lap of the Silverstone circuit, and I get the feeling he will be taking it as somewhat of a parade round, just thinking about his championship, thinking about how he battled through, dominant victory at Misano, had to fight back in the closest finish in the history of the championship at Spa. That win really would have set him up for the run towards the finale, but he had to then, he was absolutely beaten and bludgeoned by Kev Critchley, who dominated the Kyalami race. But he fought back. Strategy wasn't always his strongest point, but in Paul Ricard, a strong result in third after not taking tyres. And again at Imola, he really had to scrap for the race victory, and the race win has set up what has been a stunning run to the championship tonight. McGregor, though, in the picture-in-picture, is now down to around a second behind Regan Mitchell. And Mitchell's only got a few more corners to go, and he could be on for a stunning podium finish in the final round of the championship. It looks like, though, it could be a little too late for McGregor, David.
Yeah, it looks like it might just be a little, like I said, too little too late as they go through the loop. McGregor is so close within earshot, but I just don't think he's going to have enough. And realistically, if he was close enough coming out of the loop and onto the Wellington Straight, he might have had a chance, but he doesn't seem to be. And as a result, I think that is second position wrapped up for Regan Mitchell, barring any mistakes.
So as Luca Burke rounds Luffield for the final time, he will apply the throttle and go up through the gears, and he's starting to weave already on his run to the line. And in the final round, it was a brilliant performance from Luca Burke, who takes his second championship in stellar fashion at Silverstone, winning round 7 of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy. But put your hands together for Regan Mitchell, a fantastic performance to hold on to second place despite not taking tyres in this 90-minute feature race. He leads home Ross McGregor by a minuscule gap of 0.4 of a second. Then Al Buncombe, racing in the final round of the season, is going to cross the line in 4th place for what is his best result of this championship season. He crosses the line a matter of tenths ahead of Daniel Handover, who's followed home by Jack Noller and Chris Crossman, who must be thinking what might have been. He's in 7th place. Bastian Zenefels, he's coming towards the line, flashing the lights, happy with his performance that will see him take P8, which is his second best finish of this season, with John Clements due to cross the line in 9th. Then Florian Bauer, he's still got a drive-through penalty to his name, so we'll have to see how that affects his result. It turns to a plus 30-second penalty as he crosses the line in 10th provisionally. Then Thomas Lavoie rounds out the top 11, a fantastic result from the EGT Motorsports driver who pitted on the first lap of the race. He leads home teammate David Belanger, who finishes 12th. Then Darrell Upton in 13th, I believe, will be taking home the Fast Forward Championship for most positions gained across the course of the season, in 13th place, with 30 positions gained across the course of this Esports Designs Cayman Supercup Championship. But, David, on screen, there it is, the Rocket Simsport car of Luca Burke. We heaped on enough praise to this man in Season 1, but he's been back to doing his very best again in Season 2. A deserved championship winner.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Like you say, almost faultless to an extent in a majority of these races. Of course, they didn't win a feature race until tonight, so you obviously put, like I say, lit the fire underneath him for this one, and he's really proven that he has got the pace. Like I say, it was always going to be difficult for him. I think he had his work cut out, of course, being disconnected in the first round, and then it almost seemed as though there were some other people that potentially had the pace, but he just had the ability to draw performance out every single race. Didn't necessarily win every single one of them, of course, but did exactly what he needed to do, kept getting big points on the board, got those fastest laps, those pole positions that gave him those extras as well, and at the end of it becomes a very well-deserved second champion in a row.
So just looking at the championship standings, and this is all provisional, of course, but with no standout events or incidents looking like they're going to be investigated post-race, Burke adds a perfect score, I believe, with the fastest lap of the race and pole position, so a maximum of 27 points in the final round of the championship to heave him up to 148 points across the championship season. Ross McGregor scores 20 points for third place. That elevates him to a score of 130. And then I believe it's Jack McIntyre who just about holds on to his third place in the standings with a score of 85 points to Critchley's 83. Both those drivers not taking part tonight. And then it looks like Tom Ryer actually drops down a position. Regan Mitchell elevates himself to 5th place, 49 points coming into tonight's race. Add on 23 scored, and he's up into the 70s. So Mitchell bagging himself a top 5 in the championship in that final round of the season, with a great run to the podium. And David, just a quick thought on you. Any particular standout performances from tonight's race beyond the podium? I think we see some really exciting battles actually for 5th place with the likes of Chris Crossman for the entirety of that race.
Yeah, like you say, I think probably the best one from my perspective, although he started in a podium position, it's got to be Al Buncombe. He obviously had that coming together with Ross McGregor. Sorry, he tried that move into the loop so many times, didn't he? And he managed to make it stick a couple of times, and really did a fantastic job in getting himself back up there. Other than that, of course, the EGT guys all did really well. Of course, I think it would have been a chance for Florian Bauer to get some points, but he had a few incidents as well. But anyway, I'll hand over to you, Tim, because I know there's a handful of very antsy drivers looking to have a chat with yourself. So I'll let you have a chat with some of our podiums and some of our other races as well.
Thank you very much, David. I am joined by a number of drivers who competed in this, the finale of Season 2 of the Esports Designs Cayman Supercup. And there's one driver who I'll come to first, and that is our race winner and championship winner, Luca Burke. Luca, we spoke to you at the end of the previous round. You said your target tonight was to win the race and add one of these feature race trophies to your name, but that was a perfect drive from you tonight. How was your race at Silverstone?
Well, it's exactly as you said, quite literally perfect. Like, I couldn't have asked for anything more. Just, I've been given a target last week. a bit unfortunate with the additional penalty, but oh well, things happened, and it was just extra motivation to push the car as far as it would go, and well, in the end, it paid off.
But a season that wasn't exactly straightforward, a disconnect in Barcelona. How would you compare Season 1 to Season 2? Because at times, it's looked like you've really had to dig deep to drag out a performance.
Definitely. Like, I'm sure I've said it before, Season 2 was way more competitive than Season 1. And, well, a bit of an unfortunate start at Barcelona, but in the end, again, just like last season, and in other series, consistency seems to be key. And yeah, just try to finish as high as possible every time, and I guess here I am. I don't really know what to say. I'm just happy, man.
Brilliant. Well, another question I have is like you say, that the level of competition you say has risen from Season 1 to Season 2. Have you in turn had to raise your game? Do you feel like you've had to start pushing harder to get the results in these races?
Definitely. Like no race is won with little to no effort, of course, but yeah, more competition means more time needs to be invested into it, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one who had to like commit a few more laps to this than we normally would.
So a second title to your name. It must feel good defending your title though, mustn't it? And proving your value once again. But a comment on your competition, like Ross, also, you battled hard with the likes of Jack McIntyre and Kev Critchley. You've certainly had some exciting races.
Oh, for sure. Like it's definitely a season to remember. Not just because of the title, but just for the on-track battles themselves. Like, it was really good fun. So I really have to say thank you to Steve for just putting the whole thing together and bringing it to the end, and also thank you to the team for just all the work we put in, and also really for letting me run the rocket car this season. It feels really special. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Well, congratulations, Luca, a race victory to round out the season, and our provisional Season 2 champion. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll go over to our second place finisher, actually, Regan Mitchell. A surprise addition to the podium, potentially in this final race, considering your alternate strategy, but you finished on the podium at the last round of Season 1, and you're back on the rostrum again at the end of Season 2. It must feel good, to be spraying the virtual champagne at least once across the course of this Esport Designs Cayman Supercup season.
Yeah, it really does. I always seem to just gain the extra bit of speed right at the end of any season I take part in, but I won't complain. The alternate strategy actually was me going long at first to have less fuel in the last 25 minutes or so to try and get the fastest lap gloves. But when I saw there was a chance at maybe race win or a podium, I decided not to take tyres and went for that instead.
Were you surprised to come out of the pit lane ahead of Luca, and did you really then think, okay, right, I could, if everything goes my way, win this?
Well, I was hoping to be around his area because I know he had his 15-second penalty, but he's honestly on another level to basically everyone. I at no point thought I would beat him in this race, so I didn't defend much, only once when he caught up to me, then focused on lapping to get the second place. And
I know it's not the nicest thing to mention, but your record of having scored points in every race, it sadly did come to an end at Spa this season, but still, beyond that one race, you've scored points in every single round of this championship, Season 1 and Season 2. Do you think that you've found strength in this Cayman? It is a unique little GT4 car. It poses its own challenges. How do you find driving this car in such a competitive field?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the car, to be honest, but it is a challenge, and I'm not going to back down from any challenge. So I was sad about losing the point streak. It's Spa, I believe. It wasn't my fault. I just got caught up in an incident. But I'm happy with how I've done.
And If we do get a season 3, Regan, are you going to start winning from the start, or on the podium from the start of the season, or will we have to wait to the final round to see you on the rostrum?
Well, that was my plan for this season. It didn't go too well, but yeah, obviously you want to do the best you can, and yeah, I've really enjoyed these 2 seasons when it's gone well, at least. So yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Well, congratulations, Regan, on your podium position this evening at Silverstone.
Thank you.
We'll go to the driver in 3rd place in the race this evening, but runner-up in the championship, Zancho Simsport's Ross McGregor. And Ross, tonight you would have had to given it absolutely everything, and things go your way to take the championship home. A close fight throughout the season and another podium to your name. You must be happy with the season despite missing out on the title.
You'd think so, but I'm not really. I'm kind of disappointed. There was only really one race this season where I was the quickest, and that was the Spa, which I won. But apart from that, I was just kind of 4th, 5th, pretty average. So yeah, I just need to work on getting fast.
Well, we've seen you right up towards the sharp end across the 7 races this season, and really consistency has been key to your success. How have you found season 2? It's been close competition. We've heard from Luca about the level of competition, but to be in the top 5 as consistently as you've been, you must have been definitely had something over the majority of competition.
Yeah, it's just consistency. I just kind of try and keep my nose clean in battles and things like that. Usually I err on the side of caution, which probably Steve loves that. Involved in too many incidents or anything like that. So yeah, it's just try to pick up as many points as you can. As I said, it's like I was never really super fast at any particular race apart from Spa, and yeah, I messed up my setup 2 or 3 times as well, which didn't help. But it was good fun, and it's a shame that there's not going to be another series. And just thanks to Steve for organising everything, painting so many nice looking cars. And yeah, it was a massive step up in terms of competitiveness, the whole grid this season. But Super Luca comes out again and wins the title, so congratulations to him.
Well, Ross, you don't walk away with the championship trophy, but you do have a couple of records to your name, which I've accumulated here to tell you about. You are the winner in the closest winning margin, which was a gap of 0.2 of a second at Spa this season, and you have the largest winning margin in Snetterton Season 1, where you won by 25 seconds. So, if that's not a consolation, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Well, congratulations on your result tonight, Ross. Commiserations in the loss in the championship, and what fantastic racing across the season. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to the commentary team for the excellent broadcast.
You're welcome, Ross. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And we'll go across to Jack Noller, who looked to be in the wars for the entirety of the race. Jack, another thrilling race for you in the number 36 MSL Motorsport machine, and another exciting one, but maybe a few more dents on your car than you would have liked.
I don't really think about it. I actually didn't get a single tick of damage that race, so that was good. But yeah, it was very close racing, very, very close. And nice to be the one attacking this time, as sort of made a reputation for myself being the one defending most of this season. So yeah, obviously had the 15-second penalty from last time, which again, apologies to Regan for last time, but that's in the past now, and just had a good race. Happy to be in P3. Sort of went the wrong way on setup, which meant sort of ate my tyres because I practiced on the wrong year of track, but that's it. So P6 in the end. Very happy with that. Coming out of the pits P12, recovering up the field with some nice overtakes, which I enjoyed. Nice battling. So yeah, hope the last race was a good show.
It definitely was an exciting one. And how has it been? Competing in a full season. We had you join a couple of races into season 1. How have you found, being able to get stuck into a championship and be there every round competing?
Coming into this season, I wasn't expecting to be in a championship fight, but I've been there or thereabouts most rounds. Sometimes podium potential, sometimes just off of it. So Definitely learned the car more and more throughout the season, and I definitely know it a lot better than I did at the start. But yeah, it's been a great season to be a part of. Great racing a lot of the time, and when I've watched the stream back, great coverage from the commentary team and all of you guys in the background, working away to make the broadcast and everything as best you can. So thank you for that, and well done.
Thank you very much, Jack. Congratulations on your result tonight, and of course your performances across this second season.
Thank you very much.
We'll go over to the driver who finished 10th on the road, but I think had a penalty to his name, which might have dropped him down a few more positions. A certain Florian Bauer. And Florian, it's been a bit of an up and down season for you, but it seemed again you were once in the thick of the action tonight at Silverstone.
Yeah, I mean, my pace wasn't that good tonight. I couldn't manage to get a good lap in quali, and in race I was struggling a lot when I got free air. Like I needed to have someone in front of me to drive just behind him. In the end I was a little bit faster, could manage to close the gap like 25 seconds to P10, which I overtook in the last lap. But unfortunately got in the last lap, turn 1 drive-through, which was a little bit ridiculous in my opinion. But nothing to say about that. Yeah, but in the end, I really have to say, great stream, great organization, great skins. Yeah, you put a lot of effort in it, and very nice to be part of it.
I was going to say, Florian, you're a competitor in this season. You've been right at the sharp end at points, and a few instants dropping you down. But any particular highlights for you? The podium at Imola is a standout.
Yeah, of course. The podium in Imola was the absolute highlight, and the fastest lap as well there. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. To show the pace in Imola. A little bit unlucky over the rest of the season, but yeah. If there's some events or something like that coming up, I might be in it again.
I look forward to seeing that if and when it happens. Well, congratulations on your result this evening anyway, Florian, and thank you very much for providing some exciting action across the course of this second season.
Yes, mate.
And why don't we speak to series organiser himself, Mr. Steve Hinden, who unfortunately didn't get to finish the final round at Silverstone. It looked like you were once again in the wars, Steve, but a fun battle with Darrell Upton, I believe, for parts of the race. How was your event at Silverstone first?
Hello, mate. I was in the wars with myself this race, I'm afraid. I no excuses, but I had like 20 minutes practice before this race, and it showed massively. My car setup was terrible, my tyre pressures were all over the gaff. Shocking, but there you go. Somebody's got to finish last, didn't they?
Indeed. Well, commiserations on that respect, but I suppose I'm, on behalf of everyone, going to congratulate you and thank you very much for what has been another stellar season of Cayman action. It's been a thrill to watch on, and thank you very much to yourself for helping pull all the strings and pull everything together.
No, mate, it's I appreciate it, and throughout the series I've been sort of saying as many thanks as I can, and I can't stress it enough, to all of the drivers that have taken place, to Steve who's done the broadcasting, to you and Dave who've done an absolutely brilliant job of commentating for the whole season. As much as I've been sort of moaning about the drivers, about some of the aggression and stuff, some of the racing has just been absolutely jaw-dropping. It's been really, really enjoyable to watch for every week. I wish sometimes that there was not quite so many incidents so we could have a bit more racing, but it is what it is when you've got a grid of sort of 30 plus drivers and they're all got that competitiveness inside of them. Stuff's going to happen, but in terms of sort of being happy with everything, I can't really be happier. It's gone really, really, really well.
It's great to hear from you, Steve, at the end of every race. And let's just I know you won't want to shine the light on your race performances, but any particular highlights from your season behind the wheel?
wait, is this like going to point out, is this my best drive-through or my best crash?
We certainly had the best crash tonight. I don't know if you got to see the ED Brick car doing a couple of barrel rolls. That was certainly exciting.
I did Max Spooner and his antics. That was pretty amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a car do that in ACC. So how he's managed to do that, I'll take my hat off to him. My race series was not brilliant. I mean, I've kind of entered this as an also ran. I knew from the start I wasn't going to be able to do it, very well in it. It's just a joy to take part in it. I wanted to take part in it and just be able to sort of be on the grid with the likes of Jensen Button and Alex and Luca and Ross and all of the great drivers, and just sort of kind of enjoy it as much as I can. So much work goes into this, as I'm sure you, Dave and Steve, are well aware, that it does cut into sort of like your practice times, and I'm making the best driver excuses you'll ever hear now. But it does cut into your practice times and stuff, so I knew I was going to be up against it with having any sort of kind of chance of winning anything. But it was just really a pleasure to drive in it. All of the drivers, like I said, have driven out their skin really. Some of the racing in this has been absolutely amazing to watch. I've watched some of the streams back so many times, and I've not really been watching myself. But yeah, like I said again, thanks to MSL for being the sort of main sponsor of it. Thank you to Gridfinder and Porschesport for helping out, and James McGill for doing the pictures. Race department for helping out with stewarding, and Simracing.gp for sort of having us on their platform to host the series. I couldn't have done it without all of you guys, and it's been really brilliant. Whether there'll be another one or not, I don't know yet. We'll see.
We will see, Steve. Well, congratulations for putting together a fantastic championship, and on behalf of myself and the rest of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup team, drivers and broadcasters alike, thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, mate. And Luca, well done, mate. Congratulations. Really, really good drive. Regan, drove out your skin tonight, mate. Fair play. And Ross, commiserations, mate. But you had a cracking series. It was right down to the wire, mate. So really fair play, mate.
Steve.
Cheers, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
And that's it, hearing from our drivers here at the final round. We'll head back up to David in the booth. David, great to hear from the drivers, not only on the results tonight, but across the season that we've just had.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the majority of people who have watched and raced and been a part of it, from race department to Gridfinder to everyone who's watched the streams as well, and hoping that we do get a third season. I'm sure it'd be fantastic to see all of those cars back out on grid, and I'm sure I can speak for yourself and Steve Proudley, broadcast structure, for the same as well. But yeah, really nice there. I had kind of an end of term vibe that interview session, didn't it? Everyone started to pop up, which was nice, and it was good to hear that everyone in the majority seemed to enjoy that race as well. And it was one that kind of signed it off with a bang, really. So yeah, been an absolute pleasure. It was a fantastic race to finish off, and fingers crossed we can hope to look forward to another series in the near future.
And just one quick question, David. If anyone watching, if you had to suggest that they go back and watch any of the races from the season, which event would you pick?
Oh, it's so difficult, because Kyle Army is always one of those races that breeds some brilliant racecraft. But I think if I had to pick, just based on the way that it evolved, it has to be that race at Spa a few weeks back. Obviously, like you say, closest margin in any of the races in the 2 seasons so far. So, in the 12 races in total, loads of strategy calls, and the action from start to finish was just second to none. So, if I had to pick, I'd probably say go back and watch every single one of them, especially those qualifying sessions, because you see how close they are. They are absolutely fantastic. However, if I had to pick one, if someone had a gun to my head, it would have to be Spa.
And I, David, I'm going to follow you up on that one. If I had to watch anything back, Spa, right down to the wire, exactly how we like it. Well, thank you very much, David. That's been David Wressell and myself, Tim Fullbrook, your Cayman commentary team, guiding you through the championship. And our voices wouldn't be without the pictures brought to you by Steve Proudley of Simsport Solutions. A brilliant Burke takes back-to-back titles in the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup with MSL Motorsport Consultancy after a title bout that went down to the wire. From everyone here to everyone watching at home, and to our sponsors in MSL, in Porschesport, Simracing.gp, Race Department and Gridfinder, thank you very much for what has been a spectacular season. If we do all manage to get back together again, I hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching, and good night.